all. There are those who believe that its indiscriminate use and addiction is necessary.
My phone, no. It's always by my side. When I'm not with it, it seems I am out of the world. I don't know what is happening again. Phone has become part of us, where it's my office. Everything I do is my phone. You don't know what will happen at any given moment. So you feel your phone's supposed to be with you at every point in time. When you are not with it, you are out of time, you are out of the world, you don't know what is happening. Information, zero.
I can't do without a phone a day. But I'm a businessman. Like now, my customer, they may need a shoe that is very okay for me. So they may tell me that, okay, I should send this to WhatsApp or to Facebook. I will snap it and I'll send it to them.
No matter how advantageous the single-handy device is, there are numerous and devastating health effects associated with it, some of which are deadly and physically defective.
A lot of accidents has occurred because of this phone. When the vehicle is coming or the Okada is coming, they don't even aware it's because of this phone. As a result, a lot of life has been lost. It has caused a lot of damages to the hair because some people, they always put it on the high volume when they are using it. As a result, there is a lot of dizziness, headache. Some has even lost their hearing capacity.
I don't admire people using phone with earpiece on the road, using phones as torchlights while cooking, using phone close to your cooking gas, then using your phone as torchlights to put on the gen. All those things are very, very wrong.
It is from this phone that most of our children are learning a lot of bad things. If there is a way the government can help us to minimize this use of phone, it will be better.
Good as it is, handy as it may be, friendly as it is, effective for global business it may be, we must always tread with caution and avoid addiction to it due to its established adverse health effects. As it is always said, sweetness also has its negative effects.
Will the peace still hold? Well, I'm referring to the agreement signed between President Donald Trump of the U.S. and the leader of Iran. Welcome to this program, Global Matters. I am Shola Jaisimi. So, President Donald Trump, like you heard, put pen to paper a day ago on the issue around the war that his country has been having with Iran. He did this at the G7 meeting in France, while Iran state media shared pictures of President Masoud Pezeshkian also doing the same. But there now appears to be a snag. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who was supposed to head out, talking about to Geneva to be at a meeting to firm up the talks, is no longer airborne. The White House announced late on Thursday that J.D. Vance will not be traveling to the talks, adding that the logistics had not been, quote, simple or predictable. So, a stalemate? Is that what we have? So we'll be unpacking all of this with regards to the issue of the Strait of Hormuz that allows about 20% of the world's oil to pass through that place. U.S. has already lifted the blockade of that place. And our discussion will be held with a governance expert and international affairs analyst, Adewale Dada. He will be joining me from Washington, D.C., where he is based. But let's unpack some stories of global importance, both about international affairs and as it concerns Nigeria. And the first one is a looming contest for the leadership of the ruling party in the UK, that's the Labour Party, is actually in the offing. Sir Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, who is the current occupant of 10 Downing Street. Well, he has said he's up for it after the man who seeks his job, Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, won a parliamentary by-election seat.
Everyone knows that politics isn't working. Everyone can feel that the country isn't where it should be. From here on, I will give everything I have got to make it so, to ensure the name Makerfield is forever synonymous with bringing about the change this country needs. Bringing back something we've lost, hope. Hope for the future.
For you is they're coming home. Who may I be referring to? I'm talking about some Nigerian nationals who have been in jail, in prison, in Ethiopia. Various sentences they've been serving. But Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, flew into Addis at the weekend and she signed a prisoner exchange deal with that country. So 98 Nigerians will be repatriated to serve the remainder of their terms in Nigerian correctional centers. Some interesting one there. A court in the UK, a British court, has acquitted a former top Nigerian official for alleged corruption and bribery. Former oil minister, Diezani Alison Madueke, who was accused of bribery, was not found guilty by that court. In fact, I covered some sessions of trial, at that Southwest London Crown Court. And I can say that when I heard her address the court during cross-examination, I knew that she would be let off the hook as she was vehement that her hands are clean. The prosecution apparently could not convince the jury otherwise.
I did my job to the best of my ability. But like I said, God is not a man.
Now to our main discuss for today's edition of your program, Global Matters. We're talking about the situation that has to do with global peace. Of course, from the perspective of the war between Iran and the U.S. Both of them have signed that agreement. I said so in the early part of this program. But it does appear as if the center is not going to hold. Why? Because J.D. Vance, the vice president, was supposed to go and tie up so many things with regards to the deal in Geneva. He's not airborne. And the authorities in the U.S. have said there are some things we need to look at. But this is at the time that the price of oil is coming down. How much does it cost now? About $74 a barrel. My guest is giving me some perspectives on the implication of this peace deal and global oil price and supply. Adewale Dada joins me from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Mr. Dada, for being on the program today.
Good afternoon, Shola. Thank you so much.
So let's look at the politics of the whole thing first before we get into the oil politics. What are you hearing from the White House? You're there in D.C. What's the real reason why J.D. Vance didn't make this trip to Switzerland to go sign and clear up some areas so that the hostilities end and global oil trade resumes?
Well, the speculation is that, as in many other times, everything depends on the emotional state or the mood swing that President Donald Trump has from day to day. 1 minute he was cheering this deal that was signed in Versailles, Paris. And once the 14-point plan was announced here in the United States, there's a lot of pushback from all political sides. And it's a sort of reaction that Donald Trump, based on his temperament, doesn't like. And so, yes, J.D. Vance was scheduled to be in Switzerland today, but apparently the White House has other plans in mind. I just hope that the deal is not scuttled, but we're in flux right now, waiting to see what the White House will say about why the VP is still at home.
Okay, we're hearing reports here in our part of the world that not a few of President Trump's supporters, those who gave their support, some in the background, some openly, to the war that he launched with Iran, are not happy about some of the terms of the deal that has been struck. Because my colleague who is in the back channel would just put up a card of the key elements of the deal that was signed with Iran on the screen so that we can take those points one after the other. Number one, the U.S. is saying that Iran will not continue to its enrichment program. Yeah, there you have it on your screen. An end to the conflict on all fronts. And we're hearing that because Israel, an ally, Mr. Dada, of the U.S., continues to attack Hezbollah and all the other proxies in the Middle East, that some people are saying, no, that's not part of the deal. And that's why, you know, the Iranians are also saying, it seems you guys are not ready. Are we correct on this, sir?
Well, I don't see the information card, but I'll go by the first point that you mentioned. Yes, there is a schism in the Republican Party right now between the MAGA group and, the individuals who always felt that the Donald Trump administration should focus on American first issues. And supporting Israel is a given in American politics. But when the issue of our military stockpiles being depleted in the Middle East at such a rapid rate, or, you're hearing talk of almost $300 billion going to Iran and the unfreezing of Iranian assets in the US or Europe, and that's something that doesn't sit well with people. For 47 years, from the Reagan administration through Obama and Biden, there was negotiations. People were talking, but nobody was giving anyone any money in Tehran. I think the White House has realized that this was a big blunder going into Iran in February. And given the fact that the Strait of Hormuz can now is actually, for all intents and purposes, being controlled by Iran, the White House recognizes that they've made a big mistake. Iran holds a lot of cards that they didn't have until the February attacks. And they now realize that, you know what, this coalition of supporters of Donald Trump, the one thing that they don't want is their money going to foreign countries. And if Benjamin Netanyahu wants to go ahead and keep maintaining operations in Lebanon, there's a big belief in the American population now that Israel is an independent sovereign country. They can do whatever they want, but not on the dime of the American taxpayer.
So this aspect of the deal that has to do with the oil, because the U.S. is still trying to say that they have all the its cards, and President Trump said that it was an unconditional surrender. But Iran is pushing back and saying, no, there was no unconditional. Look at the terms of the agreement. We seem to have the big part of the stick here. How is it resonating with the American political elite across the political divide?
Well, everybody knows that Donald Trump is given to bluster. And, you can look outside, it's raining, and he says that it's sunny sunshine in Florida. But the reality is that people are realizing that this is probably the biggest foreign policy blunder of the United States ever since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And one, they do not want troops on the ground. They don't want their sons and daughters to die in the Middle East anymore. Two, they don't want to support any country that would demand more from them economically, because people in the United States are hurting currently. And number three, they are seeing the relationships that are being lost across the world. America's allies in the Middle East, in Europe, are backing away because they're seeing the policy inconsistency, and they don't want a situation where the U.S. is all alone by itself just because of this kind of approach.
So let's bring it closer home. Nigeria is a major oil-producing country, and we are part of OPEC, Iran part of OPEC. What's the implication of all of this? The Strait of Hormuz has been, the blockade has been lifted. We are hearing that those tankers, ships, and all of them are passing through that strait now. That means there will be supply of oil. And it will affect some countries which had made some slight, windfall when all of this started in February. How does it touch Nigeria?
In terms of government revenue, Nigeria, we benefited from this windfall. It's the same effect we had in 1991 with the Iraq War in 91, the Iraq War in 2003, and now for the past 4 months. So we've been making decent money. We were roughly at $82 at the end of February, and then it spiked. It's been going up and down up to the $130, $140 band. So we've been making good money. But a reminder, I know you know this, Shola, that oil is a global commodity. And so even though we produce oil, even though we have a huge refinery in Lekki right now, the Dangote refinery, the oil will flow to whoever pays top dollar. And that's the reason why many Nigerians are still surprised, but should understand that oil prices are high because there are people outside of our country that can pay more. And that's why I think the average price of fuel is going for about 1,400 naira per liter. It was in the high 800s, early 900s 3 months ago. So the government is enjoying more revenue. The people are suffering, and it's just up to Nigeria to see how do we balance these things? How do we move some of the extra windfall into social programs? I don't support subsidy, but I'm hoping that maybe some money will somehow funnel to the people, either in terms of food, medicine, and some other social services.
So from your perspective, you're there in the U.S. How are the people in the U.S. reacting? The price of gasoline, because I was privileged to be in Canada recently, and just for a couple of cents, everybody was nodding, just being very, very, how would I describe it? Very, very pissed with the Canadian government, and they said, look, this is what the US has done. The thing is, a couple of cents, we're not happy about all of the cost of living generally due to oil implications.
Well, before I answer that question, I'll say this is testimony to the resilience of Nigerians. Bread can increase from 500 naira to 1,200 within a couple of days. And Nigerians will complain, but they end up paying, and they know how to take care of themselves. Same thing for the price of fuel. The US economy, I'll say even the North American economy, we are not used to this type of price shock. So when gas prices were $3.20 and they jumped up to $4.50 a barrel, even in places like California, petrol was going for roughly about $7 to $8 per gallon. That is insane. But now that the prices have been coming down for a couple of days, it's good news for the people. And we know part of the reasons why President Trump is signing this agreement is that the midterm elections are coming in November. Yeah. People are already complaining. People's pockets are being squeezed. And he's like, I need to provide relief as soon as possible. That's the first angle. The second angle is that the oil depot, the strategic SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in America, has been declining because a lot of those reserves were released to temper prices. There are many countries around the world that their own reserves were depleted. So yes, the price of oil is coming down, but it's going to be temporary because people need to refill their reserves. We're going to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. If things are stable and price is stable globally, great. If the White House, aka Donald Trump, decides to come up with another communique or another policy shift and it tears up everything, then we go back to square one.
So back to Nigeria, because you left us folks here in Niger to continue to, feel the thing. And you've given kudos to Nigerians for what you've called their resilience, that they keep continuing to bear all of this. Government revenue, majorly from oil proceeds, although we know that tax reforms, the government says revenues from taxes have shot up and they're getting some cash in. If the price of oil continues to fall, because the benchmark is just about where it is now, if it continues to fall, in your analysis as a governance expert, how should the administration in Nigeria deal with that to be able to meet up with all its projected revenues and its targets for governance?
Well, the budget forecast for 2026 is benchmarked. We're benchmarked at, I believe, $64.85 a barrel. Currently, we are in the $80 band, so we are okay. And, this additional windfall, I don't know the margin that we actually saved in the last 3-4 months, but I would guess it will be a couple of billions. We have foreign reserves of $50 billion. So I think in terms of budget implementation, we might be on track for 2026. The bigger issue is for the average Nigerian citizen, we faced certain challenges back home. Number one is food production. So fertilizer prices are skyrocketing around the world because 30% of fertilizer goes through the Strait of Hormuz. But in Nigeria, we are lucky that we are producing, we are almost self-sufficient. And I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, Dangote just got $600 million additional financing to expand the Lekki fertilizer plant. So we should be able to provide enough fertilizer for our farmers, and hopefully that will support food supply. The key thing is how the Nigerian government and this Tinubu administration is able to manage agric production, which boils down to one thing: security. We need security in the Middle Belt, we need security in the North, so our farmers can go back, do what they do, and provide the food that we need. Until then, these two things are tied: national security and farming and food security. So we have to do, or rather the Tinubu administration has to do a better job. I know they're doing some things, but they need to do more to make sure that food security is solid for the people.
Okay, there's no way I would not talk about the insecurity challenges with you, Wale. You look at governance, you make the connection, the nexus between governance and all the other variables around it. If there's insecurity, it affects development, it affects productivity, it affects socio-economic development. How is the Nigerian community right there in US where you are? You live in Washington. How are they looking at how we're handling all of this as a nation? We know about what happened with the CPC designation and Americans sending those they have called advisors to come and help us tackle this. Is there a level of optimism by those of you who are there that, oh, yes, when it's December, I will bring all my family to Niger, we'll go to our hometown, either hometown in the east, because I know your mom is Igbo, or hometown in the west where you're from because of your dad. Is that kind of positivity, is it there?
I would say that it's very muted. I can't say that we're optimistic or pessimistic. The news is full of various narratives, always negative, mainly negative. But, lots of Nigerians still relocate back home. Lots of Nigerians are investing back home. Nigeria on the African continent, we are the we're the largest sender of funds from foreign nations back home compared to other African countries, even on a per capita basis. So I would say there is fear. There is serious concern among the Nigerian community, at least a lot of people that I talk to, that with all the price increases in Nigeria, a lot of our youth are going to descend into, criminality. When people are hungry people do strange things. And we have severe poverty in the north. The east is stabilizing, which is a good thing. The west has seen some incursions by, some terrorist groups, which makes people scared. And I'll use a personal example. In my hometown in Kwara, a lot of my family members in Kwara have left our community and moved to Ilorin, the major city, just because of the insecurity from banditry, kidnapping, all this sort of thing. And it's something that is across Nigeria right now, unfortunately. So again, there's nothing we as individuals can do. We have a government that this is their responsibility to make sure that our borders are secure. We can't keep blaming all our foreign neighbors. They were there 20, 30, 40 years ago. So what has changed differently? I think that the Tinubu administration has to focus on economic policy, making sure people are educated, people have a sense that they're secure to do whatever they want to do. And if we can manage the corruption problem, if we can manage our relationships with people outside the continent, particularly in places like South Africa, where we're seeing a lot of xenophobia attacks, Nigerians would get a sense that, home is not as bad as people say. That's the camp I belong to.
Okay, so your parting shot on this last comment, we can see some level of activity, movement, motion by the new Minister of Foreign Affairs. She went to Ethiopia, got that deal signed. Some of Nigerians who have been serving jail terms for whatever offenses are being brought back home. When they come home, they're not going home. They are going back into prison to serve the remainder of their terms. Is this diplomacy and diaspora rolled into one?
Well, I don't know if Nigerian prison system is is as good as many other penitentiaries outside of Nigeria, but I think it's a good thing. I think that Bianca Onu doing what she's doing and bringing our people back home. Yes, they've committed crimes. Come and serve your the rest of your sentence back home. I'm glad that Nigeria is fighting for its own, and she's been very active, and that's what we want. Just to give us a good name out there and let everybody know that we're not going to sit back and allow you to mistreat our people, even if they have done things wrong, and give them all these horrible sentences and make them feel that no one's going to come and save them. It's a good thing that the administration is doing, and I'm in support of that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adewale Dada, for your perspectives on today's edition of the program, all the way from Washington, D.C. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shola. Thank you.
Okay, just before we go, let's tell you that next week's edition of the program will be having the Commonwealth Secretary General, that is Madam Shirley Ayoko Birchway. She's a former Ghanaian Foreign Affairs Minister. She'll be telling us about her new role as the scribe of the 56-member bloc, primarily composed of former British colonies, its relevance today, and how youths of the bloc are pushing to get their voices heard. She'll be coming on the show next week. And as we go, some time ago, on a working trip to the U.S., I was there in Atlanta, I came across this African-American lady. The station is Afrocentric, AIT. And, I liked black diasporans. And what did she tell me? She said she knows a lot about Nigeria and that she likes Nigeria. So you've been to Nigeria?
When I was a child, yes. About 5 or 6 years old.
Okay, what do you remember?
I remember a lot of like shiny people, like well-oiled. That's where I think I first maybe learned about like shea butter or like some kind of cream for moisturizing. And then I remember spicy food. But I was little, so.
Okay, now you just shared with me that you have knowledge of Nigerian food. Do you eat it?
A little bit now. You mean like fufu? And, yeah. Oh.
That's quite impressive. Do you make it here? Do you eat it at times?
Impressive.
Yeah, because it's odd to find Americans who eat Nigerian food. And you mentioned fufu.
Oh, yeah, no, I eat all kinds of food. Japanese, Thai, Nigerian, Ethiopian, American, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So lots of people. So Nigeria is out there. So let's just keep the Nigerianness in us out there. Thank you for watching the program today. I am Shola Jaisam. Next week, the Commonwealth Secretary General is our guest. Bye for now.
The agricultural sector contributes approximately 25% of Nigeria's gross product, GDP, and employs over 70% of the country's workforce. Despite these significant contributions, access to credit and financial services remains a major challenge to farmers in rural communities.
I was trying to get the fertilizer, but there's sort of financial problems.
We are facing some serious challenges in the farming system. And without fertilizer, we cannot farm very well.
The price of fertilizer has raised up beyond imagination.
But these lamentations did not fall on deaf ears, as the Association of Northern Agricultural and Allied Commodities Practitioners, in collaboration with Central Bank of Nigeria, is launching a programmable money to farmers in Nigeria. That's according to the president of the association, Sadiq Dawari.
We have carefully studied those challenges and called for our partners, particularly the agro-input suppliers. We have also identified Central Bank, the ICT department as our critical partner. We want to leverage on information technology to make this project seamless.
Branch controller of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Rukaya Muhammad, says the bank intends to raise the status of farmers and agriculture.
We have a set of farmers. These are real human beings who are going to have wallets. They are going to use their money to go and buy inputs. These inputs are going to be bought from merchants, who are people who also drive the economy. They are going to have wallets as well. And these input providers, in turn, are going to go and buy these commodities from other people. And that's how we are going to grow our GDP, the gross domestic product in the country.
New Ansem, AIT News.
U.S.-Iran talks postponed as Israeli strikes kill at least 18 in southern Lebanon. Veteran UK Labour politician Andy Burnham wins a crunch by-election in a bid to host Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And Zimbabwe lawmakers pass a bill extending presidential term from 5 years to 7 years. This is the World News on AIT. I am Ogom Ezedimbu. Welcome. Fighting flared in Lebanon on Friday, with authorities reporting 18 killed in Israeli airstrikes across the south, and Israel announcing the death of 4 of its soldiers. The violence is the worst since the sealing of a U.S.-Iran deal to halt the wider Middle East war, which was supposed to also pause the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Saying Lebanon must burn. The Lebanese Health Ministry said the intensive strikes resulted in a preliminary toll of 18 martyrs and 33 wounded in at least 10 villages, and centers were eliminated. Meanwhile, Iran-backed Hezbollah said it was attacking Israeli forces around the southern town of Nabatea. Other Israeli strikes targeted the Baalbek region in the east of the country, which had been spotted drone or anti-tank missile.
A new round of direct talks between the U.S. and Iran have been postponed after Vice President J.D. Vance delayed a planned trip to Switzerland. The White House announced late on Thursday that Vance would not be traveling to the talks and said the logistics had not been simple or predictable.
It comes a day after the U.S. dropped its naval blockade of Iran after the two countries signed a deal aimed at ending the conflict. While the deal also said fighting should end in Lebanon, the country's health ministry said Israeli strikes had killed at least 18 people in the south overnight. Israel's ministry said it had targeted the Iran-backed group Hezbollah and that 4 of its own soldiers had been killed. As before the White House issued its statement, Hezbollah-linked Lebanese media reported that the talks had been suspended due to ongoing Israeli airstrikes. Negotiators had been due to meet for what the U.S. officials described as technical discussions on the next steps of the agreement signed earlier this week. But Washington said plans for the talks had not been finalized. It added that the U.S. looked forward to beginning technical talks as soon as possible. Switzerland's foreign ministry later confirmed the talks at the Bungestock mountaintop resort had been postponed, although it said preparations for talks were continuing. Swiss military and police officials had been patrolling the luxury hotel set on a mountain overlooking Lake Lucerne, and the media center had been set up for journalists. The negotiations had been expected to focus on implementing the agreement, which is known as a Memorandum of Understanding, and begin discussions on long-term issues, including Iran's nuclear program. Centered around 14 points, the deal includes reopening the Strait of Hormuz, a requirement that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, a $300 billion plan for Iran's reconstruction, and the U.S. termination of all types of sanctions on Iran. It also binds both sides to achieving a final deal in a maximum of 60 days, which could be extended with mutual consent. Iran's Supreme Leader, Mahmoud Kanameh, said he had approved the deal with the U.S. despite having a different view, claiming Trump had, out of desperation, used all kinds of leverage to bring it about.
Cuban lawmakers have adopted nearly 200 historic free market reforms aimed at rescuing the communist island from a severe crisis aggravated by a U.S. oil blockade. In the landmark speech to the National Assembly, Prime Minister Manuel Marrero unveiled 176 measures aimed at rolling back the state's role in the economic and attracting investment in everything from banking to tourism and agriculture.
Under the reforms, foreign investors are no longer required to form joint ventures with the state. Large private enterprises will be authorized, and both Cuban and foreign investors will be allowed to acquire stakes in state companies. These and other huge changes come as the United States exerts relentless pressure on the island, with President Donald Trump musing openly about taking over the Caribbean nation just 90 miles from Florida. A London-based Cuban economist, Daniel Tolbas, described the reform as the most profound since the 1959 revolution led by Fidel Castro. The reforms were adopted in the unanimous show of hands by lawmakers at a session, which ended with President Miguel Diaz-Canel intoning Castro's famous revolutionary slogan, "Socialism or Death." Marrero did not give a time frame for implementing the reforms, but Diaz-Canel had on Wednesday argued the need for urgent changes to stave off economic collapse. The oil blockade imposed by Trump in January after his ouster of Cuba ally Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela had brought the island's economy to the brink of collapse, forcing the Communist Party into concessions it previously considers heretical. While Havana's costume have always been to blame its woes on a more than 6-decade U.S. trade embargo and more recently the oil blockade, Diaz admitted to the existence of obstacles that didn't come from outside nor the blockade.
Ukrainian President Zelensky has called on European allies to step up help for Kyiv to down Russian ballistic missiles and speed up purchases of U.S. weapons. Zelensky was in Brussels on Thursday to meet his military backers and the EU leaders in a bid to build on momentum after a positive meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump at the G7.
Good afternoon. Hello. What are your expectations during this visit?
Zelensky said the President of the United States is very clear about increasing pressure on Russia to end the terrible war Russia has brought against Ukraine and all of Europe. He called on European countries to speed up purchases of weaponry, especially Patriot air defense missiles, for Kyiv under a program to buy U.S. arms. He said Ukraine also needed unmanned ground vehicles and long-range artillery. Countries including Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden have said they are willing to contribute to buying 2 more packages of U.S. weaponry expected to be worth $1 billion. Pentagon official Elbridge Colby said it was important that NATO allies continue and indeed increase their support for Ukraine's defense through the U.S. procurement program. He said this will help to ensure that key materials continues to reach the Ukrainian front line. Ukraine's backers insisted that now was the time to step up support for Kyiv as it is turning the tables on Russia on the battlefield and pressuring Moscow with long-range strikes. They insisted that the world was counting on them to help keep Ukraine going. They cannot and will not let them down.
Veteran UK Labour politician Andy Burnham won a crunch by-election on Friday, resoundingly securing a parliamentary seat and clearing the way for his expected bid to oust Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Burnham, a former government minister who has been Greater Manchester mayor since 2017, ensured his return to Parliament by easily beating the far-right Reform UK Party's candidate in the Macclesfield constituency in northwest England.
The 56-year-old long-time figure in centre-left Labour wants to replace Starmer as party leader and Prime Minister and needed to win the high-stakes vote to be in position to trigger such a contest. In his acceptance speech, after securing nearly 55% of the vote, beating Reform's Robert Kenyon by more than 9,000 ballots, Burnham said this is a final chance to change the system. If Starmer does leave office this year, then Britain will get its 7th Prime Minister in 10 years. Starmer congratulated Burnham on X, but again pledged to fight any leadership challenge during a public appearance in London on Friday morning.
I've sent my congratulations to Andy Burnham and I repeat them here. And actually my thanks to all of our activists and members who fought so hard over the last few weeks in what turned out to be a real battle of values, Labour values, against divisive Reform values and a very divisive candidate.
The 63-year-old ex-lawyer has repeatedly refused to quit despite dozens of calls from his own members of parliament and several ministerial resignations, insisting that his landslide election victory over the Conservatives in July 2024 gave him a 5-year mandate to govern. All eyes will be on whether Starmer can maintain the support of his cabinet. Burnham is due to be sworn in as Member of Parliament on Monday. Under Labour Party rules, leadership candidates must be a Member of Parliament. The coming days will see negotiations and manoeuvring behind the scenes at the Westminster Parliament.
The Scottish Conservatives have won a Westminster by-election for the first time in more than 50 years. The seat vacated by the SNP Stephen Flynn was won by Tory MSP Douglas Lumsden.
Lumsden, who is unable to sit in both parliaments due to a Holyrood ban on so-called dual mandates, is to resign from Holyrood just 6 weeks after winning re-election as a North East MSP. The Scottish by-election were triggered when sitting MPs Flynn and his NSP colleague Stephen Gattings resigned from the House of Commons after being elected to Holyrood. Aberdeen is at the heart of the debate around the UK's energy future, and the UK government has chosen the city as the home of GB Energy, its fledgling publicly owned energy company. Lumsden, a former oil and gas worker, said his constituents had sent a message that the destruction of the oil and gas industry must stop. The Northeast MSP defeated SNP candidate Richard Thompson, a former MP for Gordon, by a margin of more than 6,000 votes, with the Tories taking almost half of all ballots cast. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has launched her party's win in Aberdeen South as a significant result, promising that she will never stop fighting for its constituents. Badenoch added that her party is working to earn the trust of the countries again.
Zimbabwe's lower house of parliament has passed a bill to extend presidential terms from 5 to 7 years, which would allow the president to remain in power until 2030. More than 200 lawmakers voted in favor of the draft legislation on Thursday, surpassing the vote threshold required for a two-thirds majority to amend the constitution.
The bill also scraps direct presidential elections with future presidents chosen by parliament. The 83-year-old Nagagwa took power in 2017 after ousting longtime ruler Robert Mugabe with the backing of the military, and went on to win disputed elections in 2018 and 2023. The bill now heads to the Senate, where it is also expected to secure approval before being enacted by the president. This is the culmination of a campaign by the ruling ZANU-PF party in power since independence in 1980 to amend the constitution and extend presidential terms, a plan that received cabinet backing in February. The president had previously described himself as a constitutionalist and pledged to respect term limits. During Thursday's vote, Speaker of Parliament Jacob Mudenda announced that 216 lawmakers had backed the legislation, surpassing the 187 votes required to amend the constitution. 42 lawmakers voted against it. A new constitution adopted in 2013 restricted a president to serving a maximum of 2 terms, adding that any move to extend term limit would need to be endorsed by voters in a referendum, and that a sitting president cannot benefit from any extension unless voters give their approval in a second referendum. However, on Wednesday, the country's constitutional court dismissed a legal challenge seeking to block the bill. Opposition parties, civil society groups, and constitutional lawyers have argued that such fundamental changes should be put to a national referendum rather than being approved solely through parliament.
Reactions have continued to trail Niger's airport attack, which killed 35 people after gunmen struck the country's largest airport on Thursday, the second attack in less than 5 months. The residents in the predominantly Muslim country say they had just finished their morning prayers when explosions and gunshot sounds rang out from Dori Hamani International Airport, located in the capital.
Niger's defense ministry said the fatalities comprise of 22 assailants, 11 soldiers, and 2 civilians. On Thursday evening, Al-Qaeda affiliate Jum'at Nusrat said it had carried out the attack. Niger has been fighting an Islamic insurgents for over a decade, and in January, an organization linked to the Islamic State group claimed responsibility for an attack on the same airport. The violence settled by early Friday morning, and security forces have since launched a manhunt for any remaining attackers. Residents who live near the airport, which also hosts a military base, said the finished prayer at about 5:50 p.m. and shortly afterwards heard a loud bang like something had exploded, perhaps a tire. Authorities said alongside the 22 attackers that were killed, another 4 were wounded. They added that 20 suspects had been arrested. A large crate of weapons, including RPGs, launchers, AK-47 rifles, explosives, grenades, communications equipment, and thousands of rounds of ammunition were also reportedly seized, though witnesses told reporters that security personnel attempted to stop civilians getting involved. Eyewitnesses said the attackers mixed in with the local population, so finding them was not easy. Civilians civilians picked up machetes and sticks to defend themselves and to strike anyone that did not recognize who came their way. The airport vicinity has been locked down since Thursday afternoon, with security forces searching vehicles entering and leaving the area. In a televised statement, the Defense Ministry blamed armed mercenaries for the attacks, saying they were sponsored by France without providing evidence.
This is the World News on AIT. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you more reports.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Welcome back. The ECOWAS Parliament has called for urgent investment in renewable energy to power rural communities and boost economic growth across West Africa. The call came during the Parliament's 5-day joint committee meeting in Dakar, Senegal, with a focus on using renewable energy for rural electrification and economic empowerment.
More than 200 million people across West Africa still lack access to electricity, despite the region's vast solar, wind, and hydro energy potential. At a 5-day joint committee meeting of the ECOWAS Parliament in Dakar, Senegal, lawmakers are exploring ways to close that gap and advance the bloc's target of increasing renewable energy's share of the regional electricity mix to 48% by 2030.
Every energy policy must explicitly incorporate the objectives of local economic development and eradicate of energy poverty. We must therefore put in place appropriate measures to address challenges such as financing, technological transfer, and local policy in rural areas of West Africa. Inadequate energy distribution networks continue to hinder access to clean energy. Addressing these challenges requires innovative mechanisms such as regional windfall.
Delegates highlighted Senegal's growing investment in solar energy, pointing to projects that are already expanding electricity access and creating opportunities in rural communities. They also examined ways to scale up renewable energy across West Africa.
The ECOWAS Renewable Energy Coalition, which set a clear target that is increasing the share of renewable energy in our electricity mix 48% by 2030, including large-scale hydropower sources. And ECOWAS energy efficiency policy, which aims to reduce energy losses, can achieve estimated at nearly 35 to 40% due to outdated infrastructure.
Held under the theme, Harnessing Renewable Energy for Rural Electrification and Rural Economies in the ECOWAS region, the role of the ECOWAS Parliament, the 5-day meeting is expected to produce recommendations aimed at strengthening energy policy, expanding electricity access, and advancing sustainable development across West Africa. The program also features technical sessions and visits to renewable energy projects. Itseme Ozekome, AIT News.
The agreement publicly announced between the federal government of Nigeria and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, early in 2026 was to score some political points by the government of the day. This is according to the General Secretary of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, Peters Adeyemi, during an interaction with journalists.
We are not fighting ASU or anything, because the employer has a responsibility to provide a level playing ground. In fact, I do not know why government is even involved in this divide and rule thing. So, one, they started renegotiation with ASU and they concluded. But my attitude to that is that's simply because this government, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, wanted to score a political point over and above other governments. This government wanted to be credited. Part of his achievement is that while in office, they did not allow for ASU strike. Because you know that several other governments, Buhari or whichever, Jonathan, everything, ASU went on strike for several months.
PMA gave reasons behind the pause in the May 31st planned nationwide protest initially planned by NASU and SANU over consistent failure of the federal government to agreement with the non-teaching staff.
We've gotten to a point where some of the things that we have done needed interventions beyond even the renegotiating team. And it was not as if anybody was lying to us. We can see the facts clearly that we'll reach a point where we have to have some break for the government side to make consultations. And so we decided to calmly give them that time. And that's why you have not seen us going on strike. We've gone considerably far enough. And we are convinced that we are negotiating with a team that is dealing with us honestly, and we know the reasons why we cannot resume that strike on 31st, because it will not achieve any result. We are also conscious, even although we are trade union leaders who want to fight, but when the facts are on the table, we have to be reasonable.
Meanwhile, sources of the Federal Ministry of Education say the minister has been having a series of engagement with the harmonized negotiating team to ensure the resolution of all lingering issues with tertiary institutions and trade unions are resolved. That's the world news on AIT. I'm Ogom Ezedimo. Thank you for staying with us.
The number of children dying before their 5th birthday has hit a record low, according to new United Nations estimates. And Malawi is among countries highlighted in a UN report released on Wednesday for making significant reductions in child deaths. It, alongside Cambodia, Rwanda and Mongolia, have all been credited with a more than 75% drop in under-5 mortality since 2000. In the Malawian town of Namitete earlier this year, parents like Secret Gibson were queuing up to get their children vaccinated against malaria, under a new program being rolled out in countries across the continent.
When a child receives the vaccine like this, it means as he grows, he will be a healthy and strong person. But also, as he attains maturity, it's like you have already laid a good foundation for him. Because if you don't take him for the vaccine, the clinic has reservations to treat a child who did not take the jab.
Preventable and treatable causes such as pneumonia, diarrhea and malaria made up the majority of the 4.9 million under-5 deaths in 2022. While that's a halving of the mortality rate since 2000, it also still represents 1 death every 6 seconds. And the UN warned that the world is behind in its goals for reducing preventable deaths by 2030, with progress slowing since 2015. Overall deaths of babies and children under 5 in 2022 were concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. It represented 57% of the global total, despite only accounting for around 30% of the live births that year. The UN said better access to primary healthcare and community health workers could vastly improve the outlook. But it also warned that climate change, increasing inequity, conflict, and the long-term fallout from the global health crisis could all threaten progress. The number of children dying before their 5th birthday has hit a record low, according to new United Nations estimates. And Malawi is among countries highlighted in a UN report released on Wednesday for making significant reductions in child deaths. It, alongside Cambodia, Rwanda and Mongolia, have all been credited with a more than 75% drop in under-5 mortality since 2000. In the Malawian town of Namitete earlier this year, parents like Secret Gibson were queuing up to get their children vaccinated against malaria, under a new program being rolled out in countries across the continent.
When a child receives the vaccine like this, it means as he grows, he will be a healthy and strong person. But also, as he attains maturity, it's like you have already laid a good foundation for him. Because if you don't take him for the vaccine, the clinic has reservations to treat a child who did not take the jab.
Preventable and treatable causes such as pneumonia, diarrhea and malaria made up the majority of the 4.9 million under-5 deaths in 2022. While that's a halving of the mortality rate since 2000, it also still represents 1 death every 6 seconds. And the UN warned that the world is behind in its goals for reducing preventable deaths by 2030, with progress slowing since 2015. Overall, deaths of babies and children under 5 in 2022 were concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. It represented 57% of the global total, despite only accounting for around 30% of the live births that year. The UN said better access to primary healthcare and community health workers could vastly improve the outlook. But it also warned that climate change, increasing inequity, conflict, and the long-term fallout from the global health crisis could all threaten progress.
Federal government seeks unified action on Nigeria's environmental issues. Federal government deepens Nigeria's first policy with renewable energy deal to boost local manufacturing, clean energy access. And protesters demand suspension of sachet alcohol ban. This is Abuja Report on AIT. I am Aicheda Majekodomi. Welcome. The federal government says environmental sustainability should be viewed as a national development imperative for public health, food, and energy security. Minister of Environment Balarabe Lawal, represented by the ministry's permanent secretary, Saliu Usman, who stated this at the 2026 Nigeria Environmental Summit in Abuja, pledged decisive action to unlock the country's green economy. Our climate correspondent, Nkolio Modu, has the report.
For the Nigerian farmer whose crops have failed after months of drought, The families forced from their home by devastating floods, and the coastal community losing land to erosion. The summit was designed as a unified platform to bring government, investors, researchers, development partners, civil society communities, and young innovators together to develop practical solutions to Nigeria's environmental challenges under one national agenda.
This summit will explore practical ways for accelerating climate action, strengthening environmental governance, mobilizing sustainable finance, promoting climate-resilient health systems, advancing a just energy transition.
When governors answered to reforestation targets, flood response readiness, and subnational environmental data, the same way they answer to revenue and economic indicators, that kind of accountability will flow down to the LGA.
Representing the Minister of Environment, Permanent Secretary Salihu Usman said the federal government remains committed to ensuring that recommendations from the summit are translated into concrete actions.
The Federal Minister of Environment remains committed to strengthening environmental governance through sound policies, effective regulatory frameworks, and strategic partnerships that promote sustainable development.
Participants here stressed that while Nigeria faces growing threats from floods, desertification, and biodiversity loss, the challenges also present opportunities for green investment, innovation, and job creation. Nkoli Omaudu, AIT News, Abuja.
And government at all levels have been told to invest in empowering young people with skills, knowledge, and resources needed to tackle pressing environmental issues through technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. This was the focus of discussion at the final phase of the DPI SGP 2.0 Innovation Challenge, demonstrating innovative approaches to addressing plastic waste management in Nigeria. The organizers said the purpose of the training is to equip young people with necessary skills to tackle plastic waste in Nigeria.
You can see the energy that is coming out of here, of the great ideas that need to be tapped. We want to be sure that they are working further on these ideas so that eventually products will go to the market. We're going to be looking for ways of funding them. We're going to be looking for ways of helping them.
And speak on the benefits of the training for younger generations.
Going from premises generating waste to another, to scavenge for this plastic waste, and then sell it to upscalers who will not take you to industry who are in need, who are in their need of this plastic waste for recycling.
The youth, for me, is the definition of Nigeria tomorrow. If there is no youth, if the youth are not there, there will be no Nigeria.
The event provided a platform for young innovators to present practical, technology-driven, and community-based solutions aimed at reducing plastic pollution and promoting environmental sustainability. Now, the federal government is intensifying implementation of the Nigeria First policy aimed at prioritizing local content in public procurement and boosting indigenous production. In Abuja, a new renewable energy offtake agreement was signed to strengthen the drive within the renewable energy sector. Under the framework, government will procure renewable energy products from local manufacturers, creating a guaranteed market for solar and clean energy technologies produced in Nigeria. The initiative is expected to reduce imports, strengthen local capacity, and expand job opportunities in the renewable energy value chain. Speaking at the signing, the executive vice chairman of NASENI said the agreement aligns with national goals on industrial growth and energy transition.
This is what this government is all about, collaboration, and ensure that you complete the full cycle. And what we want to do is to put a smile on the faces of Nigerians.
So we want to see new UNTL in Kaduna rising. We want to see custom buying the cuttings from UNTL. We want to see the military, paramilitary going back to Kaduna axis to buy those cuttings. So those industries come up again.
more than 1,000 mini-grids are being project developed in Nigeria. So the prospect is to continue to leverage on this and at the same time reduce the importation of the equipment that we use in deploying the infrastructure to make sure that they are produced in Nigeria. And that is what BPP and NASENI are making sure that it's happening today.
The agreement is expected to deepen local production in the renewable energy sector while supporting broader efforts to expand electricity access across Nigeria using local manufacturers. Roluke Ogundele, AIT News, Abuja.
As the number of elderly persons in Nigeria continue to grow, concerns are mounting over the increasing cases of neglect, abandonment, and abuse suffered by older citizens. Speaking during an awareness program on elder abuse prevention in Abuja, health expert Dr. Oguogwa Osiogbu is calling on state government to put in place affordable national health insurance policy to protect the rights and well-being of senior citizens through improved healthcare services and greater public awareness.
For many elderly Nigerians, growing old comes with more than just the challenges of age. It often means facing isolation, poor access to health care, financial hardship, and in some cases abuse and neglect from family members and society. A consultant physician and geriatrician at the National Hospital Abuja, Dr. Ogugwa Osiogbu, expressed concern over what she described as the increasing neglect of elderly persons across the country.
Older people have multiple diseases. They're taking a lot of drugs per month, sometimes up to 300,000 per month is spent on drugs alone. They also have to run tests and all of that. So the advocacy is that we should have health insurance that is affordable to these older persons, and in addition, a social protection insurance.
The geriatrician stressed that age-related illnesses such as hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, dementia, and other chronic conditions require continuous monitoring and management, making accessible healthcare services crucial for the elderly population.
Making sure at the primary healthcare level, we have integration of the care of older persons, because that will be the first point of call. Can we manage simple things? Screen for vision loss, screen for hearing loss, screen for malnutrition. These are the things that we need to screen, identify early, and manage.
As Nigeria's elderly population continues to increase, stakeholders believe that protecting older citizens from abuse and neglect must become a national priority.
In our country, where many citizens are eager to see real change in their daily lives, conversations around leadership are taking center stage as stakeholders gathered with a shared goal of redefining leadership for better outcomes. At the Leadership Renaissance Forum, themed Reimagining Leadership for National Development, participants are not just talking policy, they are exploring how leadership decisions affect everyday Nigerians. According to them, leadership must go beyond promises to delivering real, tangible improvement in people's lives.
Maslow. And so good leadership is critical to our own existence and to our business. And so when anybody puts together an arrangement to ensure that the experiences we have gone through, even as a nation, is transformed, is improved, is made focused on delivery of tangible benefits and goods to the people, we are always there to support.
As a nation, we are moving to a point where we have to move forward in a more concrete, more purposeful, and a way that will move us forward.
It's all about rebirthing our leadership in the nation. The town hall meeting gives us a forum where we're having the leaders come to interact, to talk with the people that they are leading. And I guess that sense of accountability will help them to do better.
At the forum, leadership is not optional. It is essential for survival and progress. They say renewing leadership in Nigeria means building a system that listens, responds, and puts people first. A system where leaders are not distant figures, but accountable voices who understand the struggles of the people they serve. Nigerians have a collective responsibility to contribute to the growth and development of the nation. These were the words of the president of Ohanaeze Ndigbo FCT, Chief Andrew Ugu, during a media briefing in Abuja. He stated that the organization remains committed to playing its part in advancing national development through economic and community-focused initiatives.
Ndigbo and the FCT have always been known for enterprise, resilience, and community development. These programs are not just events, they are movements. Movement to preserve our culture, secure our economic future, and build a lasting legacy for generations unborn.
Urged Nigerians to invest in the country's future by contributing positively in their various fields of endeavor, stressing that sustainable development requires the active participation of all citizens.
There's nothing that stops us from rescuing one of our brothers in diaspora who may not be doing well. There's nothing that stops FCT from rescuing somebody in another part of the country, because Ohanaeze is Ohanaeze everywhere. So we are one, and that is why we are calling on Ohanaeze FCT, Southeast Nigeria, and in diaspora.
He further explained that the organization is working to strengthen economic opportunities for its members by promoting entrepreneurship, improving livelihoods, and creating platforms that support wealth creation and economic empowerment. And if you are just joining us, this is Abuja Report on AIT, reaching you live from Akpaduma Hill Studios in Asokoro. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Federal government seeks unified action on Nigeria's environmental issues. Federal government deepens Nigeria's first policy with renewable energy deal to boost local manufacturing, clean energy access. And protesters demand suspension of sachet alcohol ban. Come back. The International Peacebuilding Organization, Search for Common Ground, is advocating innovative policies and programs aimed at equipping young people with the opportunities, skills, and pathways needed for meaningful participation in political processes. Speaking at a joint media briefing themed No to Electoral Violence in Nigeria, the organization's Director of Programs, Gifts Omoniwa, described democracy as one of the nation's most valuable assets, stressing that it must be protected through collective action, civic responsibility, and responsible citizenship.
The joint media briefing underscored the need for Nigerians to positively engage young people in nation building rather than allowing them to be used as instruments of electoral process. The Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, alongside an international peace-building organization, are calling for proactive measures to safeguard the country's democratic process.
Democracy cannot be sustained by institutions alone, but requires an active, informed, and vigilant citizenry. Strengthening civic education, promoting democratic values, and encouraging broader participation in both electoral and governance processes are therefore essential.
The two organizations insist that safeguarding democracy also requires addressing Nigerian security challenges, including banditry, kidnapping, and other forms of violence that continue to threaten peace, stability, and democratic governance across Nigeria.
We are advocating to government, to the young people, and all like-minded individuals in Nigeria to look around innovative approaches that could empower young people and also address the frustrations against their recruitment into violent extremist groups.
The media briefing held to commemorate the 2026 Democracy Day featured a call on government institutions, private sector organizations, and individuals to recognize that one of the greatest threats facing the nation is the potential recruitment of vulnerable young people into violent extremists and criminal groups. Has Akudi, AIT News, Abuja.
The recent surge in insecurity across Nigeria has reignited debate over whether the current administration possesses the political will to effectively tackle the nation's security challenges. One of the platforms for this national conversation was the presentation of a book authored by the Commandant of the Federal Capital Territory Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC. Speaking at the event, the senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, Adams Oshiomhole, argued that President Bola Tinubu's administration has demonstrated the political will required to address insecurity and restore peace across the country.
The book, titled Nigerian Security Dilemma, examines the strategic planning, investment and execution of security operations in Nigeria's fight against insecurity and other criminal activities. Senator Adams Oshiomhole, representing Edo North Senatorial District, says ending insecurity in Nigeria requires commitment, coordination, and leadership of the heads of nation's security agencies.
I think all of us as a people, particularly those who are in politics, whether they are in opposition or they are winning or they are upstanders, we need to understand that when it comes to security, there is only Nigeria. There is no APC, no PDP, no CPC, no NDA, no whatever.
The author of the book and commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Federal Capital Territory Command, Olushola Odumosu, noted that no single security agency can successfully address Nigeria's current security challenges alone. He stressed the need for enhanced collaboration, intelligence sharing, and coordinated operation among all security agencies to effectively combat insecurity across the country.
I'm looking at it from that perspective where all the security agencies can understand that we must have the same focus, the same goal, and that whether your mandate is intertwined or interwoven, we have a collective responsibility to ensure peace and order in Nigeria.
The book reflects the author's years of experience in combating insecurity and offers strategic insight into addressing the prevailing security challenges threatening Nigeria's peace, stability, and unity. Has Akodi, AIT News, Abuja.
The call for greater accountability and citizens' participation in governance has again taken center stage with the launch of the Subnational Development Index report in Nasarawa State. The report, developed by iLead Africa, is an initiative aimed at promoting evidence-based governance and strengthening accountability at the subnational level. It provides a detailed assessment of development indicators across communities in Nasarawa State, highlighting critical gaps in infrastructure and access to essential services such as healthcare, education, water, and other social amenities. Stakeholders at the launch urged Nigerians to use the report as a tool for demanding transparency and improved service delivery from government authorities.
As we all know, Nigeria gradually prepared for the 2027 general election, and this report also serves as a powerful advocacy tool for citizens. We encourage community, civil society organizations here present, youth group, women-led organization, and citizens across Nigeria and Nasarawa State in particular to utilize these findings and the recommendation contained in this report to engage political aspirants and elected officers. The conversation ahead of the 2027 general election must move beyond personality and political rhetoric. It must be focused on tangible development priorities.
If you travel to subnational regions, you see that the development priorities of governance most times does not translate to development in these regions. So what are we doing as civil society, as partners, and as citizens to ensure that governance that has not gotten to the worst of is not complete?
And now protesters have held a peaceful demonstration at the Federal Ministry of Health in Abuja, calling for the suspension of the purported enforcement of a ban on sachet alcoholic beverages by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC. Addressing journalists, the leader of the protest, Stephen Eriba, said the agency's enforcement of a ban on sachet alcohol was in violation of existing national alcohol policy.
The sale of alcohol in sachets and PET bottles was not intended to have any negative impact on Nigerians. Rather, it was an innovation to serve the low-income adult population who also desire the product and should be allowed the right of choice.
And that's Abuja Report on AIT. I am Cheda Majekodomi. Thanks for staying with us.
The fall armyworm has caused devastating crop losses across Africa since it arrived in 2016 in Malawi at Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Biotechnology research scientist Kingdom Kwapata is leading studies into varieties of maize whose genes have been modified to resist the pest. Such engineered crops are considered genetically modified organisms or GMOs.
We needed a solution because our farmers are suffering. Our main purpose and aim for the research is to establish whether the gene that confers resistance against fall armyworms and other lepidopteran insects is effective.
The trials are expected to take about 5 years. They are conducted in a fenced and confined maize field 500 meters away from any traditional crop to avoid possible contamination with the traditional varieties. In the meantime, lawmakers, traditional leaders, and farmers have visited the trial site to observe its progress. Some farmers are excited about the trial, which is in its first year.
This will solve the problems of lack of money to buy pesticides to kill fall armyworms, which have affected my maize harvest for many years. And I am now a happy farmer because these trials are providing solutions to the problem.
Another subsistence farmer, Esther Ganjawala, is skeptical about the technology. She notes that replacing local maize varieties with high-yielding hybrids has created new troubles.
These new varieties are not good at all. You can't harvest anything without applying fertilizers, and they are easily attacked by pests. That's why there is growing poverty. But with our local varieties, we can harvest even without applying fertilizers.
Researcher Kwapata says genetically modified crops have been introduced safely elsewhere, including the United States, Brazil, and Argentina. But many in Malawi are concerned about possible health and environmental impacts.
So even though the target is to make sure the stalk borer doesn't attack the maize or the armyworms, but actually the introduction of this GMO will affect other beneficial insects such as bees and other birds. So that is something that we don't want. We don't want to disturb that cycle.
Ghania also fears that once introduced to farmers, the GMO maize would keep other local crops from growing. Kwapata says there is no evidence that would happen, but he acknowledges that people are concerned.
There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of political anxiety. But in the final analysis, as researchers, we are saying that the nation needs to give us a chance to do the research diligently, independently, without due influence.
Kwapata says the researchers will present the results of the trials only to government authorities so they can decide whether the GMO maize should be introduced in Malawi. Lamek Masina, VOA News, Lilongwe, Malawi.
This is the cool view. What did I do with my knife? Here we go.
How hard is it to get land and start a farm? It takes more than most people have. More like 60 years ago, Fairfax County was transitioning from being dairy farms to being suburbs.
That development there was the front field. And if you go further, that's the Thompson field. And if you go across the street, that's the Weissman field. And if you go over there, that's Bradley Thompson's. And so all of these are old farmers from 50 years ago or 60 years ago who rented us property all along this road all the way to Tyson's Corner.
And so when my parents bought this piece of property, there were no suburban developments around here. It was a 2-lane highway, Route 7, which is now currently a 6-lane highway. And all the old dairy farmers were sitting on their property waiting to sell it and waiting to make a lot of money. If you can believe this, the land that was sold adjacent to our property in 2008 was $500,000 an acre undeveloped. An insane amount of money to have to spend to come up with to grow vegetables. What's the solution? What the populace needs to do is say that farming is important to them and that it's just as important as parkland or other public amenities that people really enjoy living near. And this is a big step toward keeping agriculture going in a metropolitan area. Farming basically means at the end of the year, hopefully you paid all your bills. But that doesn't mean you have any money left to start the next season unless you happen to have such a good season. CSA is a great fit for our farm. I think I have about 600 CSA members.
Happy to be here. We're so blessed, yes.
My father used to borrow $25,000 at the beginning of the season and pay it back to the bank in September. Instead of that now, we ask our customers if we can borrow that money, and they give it to us in February and willingly, and then we pay them back in vegetables through the season. They have 3 different size shares, mini, regular, and robust. If you're a mini share, you get 6, and you just come and pick out whatever 6 things you want. And if you decide you want 6 bags of tomatoes, you get 6 bags of tomatoes.
Oh my gosh, the produce is so fresher, has better flavor. It's
This is Democracy Today on AIT. Hello and welcome. I am TV Tiav. The good people of Ekiti State in southwest Nigeria and the 6 other constituencies in Ondo, Nasarawa Rivers, Enugu, Kano, and Kebbi State will go to the polls in about 13 hours and a half from now, while the big prize is the governorship election in Ekiti State, there are by-elections to fill up vacant seats in the National Assembly and the Kebbi State House of Assembly. For Senate seats, we have Ondo South, Nasarawa North, Rivers Southeast, and Enugu North. They are all up for the by-election, while there is the Dawankin Kudu Marawa Federal Constituency in Kano State and the Zuru State Constituency for the Kebbi State House of Assembly. We have our team of correspondents in Ekiti State and across the other constituencies where elections will be holding, and we'll be taking you live to Ado Ekiti to join our chief news correspondent, Utibo Emoren, for the latest update right there in Ekiti State. And in the studio to discuss the many issues about Saturday's elections, we hope to he'll be joining us shortly, the Deputy President of Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Sebastian Abu. He'll be joining us shortly. We also have a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, that's the NBA, Chief Joseph Daudu, a senior advocate of Nigeria. He will be joining us later on the program to review the legal framework and general principles of the proposed state police. But then before we get into the conversations and the live interventions, let's bring you up to speed with the latest developing stories. We tell you that families of several military officers detained over an alleged plot to overthrow the President Bola Tinubu administration are demanding a fair and open trial for their loved ones. They want the military authorities to open the proceedings to the public, allow international human rights observers inside, and grant independent doctors access to the detainees. Speaking with journalists in Abuja, relatives shared how painful this period has been for them.
Loved ones, we are speaking now because we believe the truth is being suppressed. We want it to be on the record. We are doing what is expected if we feel there is injustice. We strongly believe that the narrative is being controlled. Since the abduction of our loved ones 9 months ago, we have faced many obstacles. We and our loved ones have been tortured, oppressed, suppressed, traumatized, humiliated, tormented, and bullied. We and their lawyers were not allowed to see them for over 180 days, despite our countless appeals. We have not been given full medical reports, even though some of our relatives have visible injuries. Many are losing their eyesight and having lung issues due to their long stay in underground facilities, due to lack of proper ventilation. Our loved ones were refused legal or family representatives despite repeated pressure to have them present during statement taking. They are being leg and hand chained in court-martial in an open desecration of their human rights and dignity. These are officers who are being humiliated so brazenly and openly that one can only imagine what happens behind the scenes.
Meanwhile, at the Federal High Court in Abuja, 2 women linked to terrorism offenses have been sentenced to 40 years imprisonment following their prosecution by the Department of State Service, that's the DSS. The convicts, Safia Salihu and Halima Abdullahi, identified as the mother and sister of slain terror kingpin Kachala Ibrahim Batuji, were found guilty of terrorism-related offenses after pleading guilty to multiple charges. Batuju, a notorious bandit leader, was reportedly killed by Nigerian security forces on June 10, 2026, during an operation in a forest near Ileje in Kababunu local government area of Kogi State. And in Kano State, northwest Nigeria, the Federal High Court this Friday also convicted and sentenced a bandit arms courier, Raya Haruna, to 10 years imprisonment for transporting firearms and ammunition to bandits operating within and around the state. The trial judge, Justice Simon Amobeda, handed down the sentence after finding the defendants guilty of a 3-count charge bordering on the unlawful transportation of firearms and ammunition, as well as providing logistical support to criminal elements, contrary to the Firearms Act and Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. Those are the major stories for you. We'll start the conversation on the elections, and let's confirm that the sensitive and non-sensitive electoral materials in all the 7 elections that we're holding on Saturday, that's tomorrow, are now at the ward headquarters of the local government areas where elections will be taking place. And in Ekiti State, the resident electoral commissioner, Dr. Bumi Ome Seyi Demi, has been speaking. Let's listen to him.
But the people that we see on the election day, those are the ones that we will see. And the ICPC, is the responsibility of the ICPC and EFCC to do that. It's not the responsibility of INEC. The challenges of logistics, transporters, and we have been able to map out, do proper matrix of our transportation, knowing the number of vehicles that we go to each area. We have been able to know where we will need Okada. We have been able to map out where we need all those tricycle. So being able to map out those ones out. And also we have been able to make sure that the transporters are given their money, and we have told them that there's need for them to pay the drivers. You know, when you have middleman issue, someone will just go and bring a transport, get a driver, and he will not pay the driver, and the driver will say, I will not go until I'm paid. So all those ones, we have make sure we find a way of stopping that by making sure even the vehicles they will bring, sometimes you will see some vehicles, you shake your head. So we have been able to do the mapping, and we have given the transport owners to give us the list of their vehicles, put the plate numbers, the name of the driver, and the phone number of the drivers. And we have sent this to the road safety. And the road safety are the local government and checking of the vehicles. They have started that one since Monday. And they have a sticker that certifies the vehicle that we are going to use. And we have passed also the list to DSS.
Nigeria has survived everything, not because we are lucky, but because in the hardest moment, when the news breaks and the grief is raw, someone somewhere makes a choice.
To confirm before spreading panic, to empathize rather than assign blame, to hold when everything inside said, poof.
For terrorism is not only the attack that sparks our outrage. Terrorism is also the choices that follow, the ones that feed division and erode the bonds of nationhood and patriotism that hold us together as Nigerians.
Let us choose to defeat terror, one division at a time. Take your pulse, choose Nigeria.
Let's all unite against terror.
Thanks for remaining with us on Democracy Today on AIT. We'll now take you live to Ado-Ekiti, the capital of Ekiti State, where over 1 million registered voters are expected. We hope that most of them will be there. Ekiti State has never registered up to 50% of voter turnout. So we'll look at what will happen tomorrow. But we'll take you live to Ado-Ekiti, where our chief news correspondent, Utibe Omoren, is on the streets of Ado-Ekiti. Utibe, can you bring us up to speed with what you now know is happening, the preparations, how anxious are the people for tomorrow's election, what the authorities are also doing, and perhaps the concerns that you have picked up since your arrival in Ekiti State?
But by experience and by what we've always seen, INEC, in terms of logistics experience, there's always been those bottlenecks that come along. You would expect that they will have the contingency plan to deal with them as they arise. And not just that, there have been a lot of media presence here as well. Expectedly, elections are big media events, and not just media as well. CSOs, whose responsibility is to review what is happening on election day, observe, write reports, and see to it that INEC has followed through with its guidelines and manuals on how the election is supposed to be conducted are all here. There's been tons of data that have been turned out by these CSO, and some of it we will discuss a bit with one or two of them that are here with me on set. So in terms of the general situation in Ekiti State, it's quite calm and cool. Maybe I should just hint you the weather is pretty cool here as well. Ekiti it's different from Abuja. Abuja is pretty hot where you are, but here it is cool, and it's been cool all day. We expect that it's going to be as cool as it is right now in the political environment when Saturday comes in. Now let's talk a bit about the expectations on election day. I told you I have two friends here with me from the civil society who are going to give me perspective of what they've seen, what they've observed, and what the preliminary data for the election tells them. I have the head of research and strategy of Impact Development Initiative, Oluwafemi Adebayo. He's here with me. Femi, could you just step in here? Oh, okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
Democracy Today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I also have Abimbola Adejare Salako. She is the Executive Director, New Generation Girls and Women Development Initiative. Good to have you here with us as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Let me start with you, Oluwafemi. Okay. I know that Impact is very data heavy. You tell us what's going to happen before the election, you tell us what's going to happen during the election, and you tell us what's going to happen after the election. So let's start before the election. What has the data told you?
Well, from the data we've gathered, for us at KDI, we've been tracking for over 6 months. I mean, pre-elections, and up to date, we've not, unlike before, I think we've only for 6 months been able to, track and document and verify the information of about 15 related violence. And out of the 15, there are just 1 fatalities, right? Which is unlike what used to be. And now going into what the data is saying is the fact that Ekiti election and the atmosphere, just like you said earlier, Ekiti election is not going to be characterized by election insecurity or electoral insecurity, as the case may be. But of course, we also need to now maybe talk about some of the underlying pressure. I mean, in terms of the conduct of the elections, that we can also call potential for violence. Because when it comes in terms of violence, I think pre-election is not characterized by violence, and we're also hoping that election day will not have any sort of that.
You've seen the deployment done by NSCDC and the police. Does it give any sense of confidence that potential violence will be nipped in the bud?
Well, from conversations and, of course, from paper, when the true test of what will happen, it's tomorrow. And every Ekiti people, indigents, will be able to say that the police has done enough, the NSCDC has done enough. But to say right now, based on what we've seen and what we've heard from the security agent, yes, it's something to say, okay. But at the end of the day, those plans will be tested tomorrow. That is when we also know the strength. I mean, in terms of, the stress test will be tomorrow.
Stress test, thank you. I'll come back to you, Oluwafemi. Let me talk to Abimbola. Abimbola, you're about new generation women and girls. You're still talking about pre-election data and analysis, and one of the most prominent ones we've seen in this election is the fact that we have no women on the ballot as far as the governors are concerned. Maybe a couple in the deputy governorship aspirant. What does that say?
Well, it says a lot for a state like Ekiti State, and one of the things that we continue to engage from our end is increased women political participation, and just like every other state in Nigeria, it's still a major challenge and a major setback because the challenges that women in politics continue to face are very quite enormous, from funding challenge to also having support of the citizens behind their backs and all of that, and of course the money politics politics that we play in Nigeria and the midnight meetings and all of that. So it's still a major setback and a major challenge, but we are optimistic because in Ekiti State, this current administration has 6 women in the House of Assembly, which is something that is unprecedented. And the coming House of Assembly, because one of the things we've done is to track, the progress of women political participation in Ekiti elections. So we are hopeful that the 4th coming Ekiti State House of Assembly will also have nothing less than 6 to 7 women in political participation. But of course, that's also not a pass mark, compared to the number that we have in the House of Assembly. 6/26 is still not a good number. But when you talk about political violence, so the New Generation Girls and Women Development Initiative, we've had some consultations and we've did a statewide survey. And this one of the feedback we got is, of course, the state appears to be, quite peaceful, but there has been cases of suggestions of this calmness being false, and one of the feedback from the communities, from the 16 local governments where we had the survey, is that there is likely to be violence in some major hotspots in Ekiti State on election day, which is largely Ikere, Ado, and also Oye, some key LGAs, and you can understand, why this, hotspots have been identified. Because for Ikere, for example, we have more of the opposition from Ikere, and so also internal party dispute has also been identified, and of course, poverty and vote buying, inducement, and all of that. These are things that have been identified as something that is likely to cause violence on election day, because the calmness that we see, people's perception is that this calmness is not really real, but on election day, we are actually hopeful. And one of the things we've done from our end is to have a multi-stakeholder engagement where we had the police, we had INEC in attendance, and we had series of questions, as regards their preparedness for this coming election. And of course, police have assured us that they've deployed as many officers as needed. The civil defense has also said the same, but we are really hopeful and watchful that Ekiti election, especially when it comes to the new Electoral Act. Of course, you know that Nigeria has a new Electoral Act, which was signed into law by the president in February. So one of the things that we are also doing, because I also represent a movement called Yep Niger campaign, which is the youth-led electoral reform project. So one of the campaign is also to ensure that the needs of young people make it into the Electoral Act. Yes, we were not, lucky to have all our recommendations, but some of our key recommendations made it into, the new Electoral Act. So one of the things we are also doing is to deploy monitors to the 16 local government assessors, legal assessors, to assess, to see these new provisions, particularly when you look at the downloadable PVC, the use of downloadable PVC. There has been a lot of questions around, will people be allowed to make use of their
INEC released a notice yesterday saying that's not going to be allowed for this election.
So that's the challenge, because when the chairman was in Ekiti State, I personally engaged him and I asked him if the downloadable PVC will be used, and he confirmed that it will be used, provided you write to INEC ahead of time. So even the process, the operationalizing of the use of downloadable PVC is still not clear to a lot of citizens. So this is one of the things that we are going to be assessing across the 16 local governments come tomorrow.
Interesting perspective. Let me also ask about your projections for election day itself, because I know you don't just do what is happening before the election, you project expectations as well. We've always had voter turnout situations in most elections. The worst we've had recent times was Anambra, November 2025. 21 point, how much was it? 10.10.
Yeah,
I thought it was 10.8
That's
turnout.
2021.
2021. Yeah. Then in 2025 it was 21.4 in 2025. In Ekiti in 2014 I think it was about 50.4. If my data memory serves me right. In 2018, it was about 44.36, and in 2022, it dropped to about 36 point some fractions. Right. What are your expectations and your projections for 2026, for tomorrow?
Okay, but before I answer your question, if you permit me just to build on some of the things you had said, is the fact that, completely, part of the underlying pressure heading into the elections is basically, the fact that the INEC guideline for the conduct of 20 elections, 2026, as a result of the Electoral Act, they need to review the 2022 version, was actually released on the week of the 28th of May. I mean, that's pretty much about between 3 to 4 weeks, 3 weeks to Ekiti elections. So it also says a lot when people do not have a clarity around downloadable PVC. It's also the fact that the clarity wasn't there in time. Then even after the guideline was released, what has happened to it in terms of popularization of the processes and procedure? I think elections in Nigeria is pretty much done. We are starting 8:30 and we're ending 2:30 now, right? It's also pretty much more than to say we're just going to use beavers for accreditation. There are other variables. I wouldn't want to use the word complexities. There are other variables that are involved in this conversation. And of course, to now come back to your question, I think pretty much in terms of maybe we're looking at turnout, there are a lot of variables involved. The very first thing is to also look at the fact that these elections in Ekiti will not happen in silos. It will happen within a context and the environment that exists in the state. And of course, in some part of the state, there have been so much, conversation around insecurity, kidnapping and banditries, right? And if you look at that, I was looking at the data today. For instance, a local government like Ilejemeje, in the last election,
the one that's close to Kogi State.
So if you look at the turnout data for Ilejemeje local government, is above about 49, close to 50%. But at Dole local government, which used to have which has the highest number of registered voter, is actually around 29 or 28%. So it then means you have a local government with a high number of registered voter, but turnout is low. Then you have a local government with maybe a reduced number of registered voter, but with high turnout. But these are local government that have, high experience in banditry, kidnapping and all. And again, I see this, I've said this earlier today, of the fact that Ekiti has a culture, electoral culture, where people are maybe working in the urban local government, but they have to go back to their local government to cast their vote because they are registered in those local government. But these are local government now where people are afraid to go back, So then it then becomes, would people want to go back home to go and cast their vote in the midst of insecurity, uncertainties, if they'll be kidnapped on the way or not, right? Of course, not everybody can afford security company, to take them back home. This is number one. Number two, again, is to talk about electoral predictability. A lot of conversations around these elections. You rightly mentioned that the perception of most of the stakeholders is there is this high level of predictability heading into the elections. But or maybe some would say that has bring some level of calmness, which I also agree, it is forced calmness, right? But if you look at that, it's also dangerous for democratic practices and tenet, and even democracy generally in a country. For instance, I ask people, on the street earlier today to ask people around the fact that, okay, what do you think about the elections? And you have people saying, well, either I go or not, and we already, there is this predictability around the election to know who is going to, clinch or win the elections. Again, it then we then go to competitiveness of the elections as a conversation. So that's another factor. Then we also come to the complexity of the processes. I say this to people almost every time. I think Nigeria has one of the most, longest, cumbersome process of electioneering. If you start from the registering online, for you to go to INEC office to complete your registration, you do claims and objection to even know where your polling unit is or to identify if you still exist or you are alive. Then after that, on the election day, you still check that same name that you've confirmed before. You do accreditation, you get your ballot, you vote before you drop it there. I've mentioned pretty much about 7 steps. Of course, I skipped PVC collection. That's like hate, right? We don't do PVC distribution. But another concern that I have is how we calculate our voter turnout. Really, there is a principle of no PVC, no voting. But yet, when we want to calculate our registered voter, we benchmark it against registered voter, not PVC collected. So, for instance, in Ekiti, over 1 million registered voter, PVC collection is about 97%, which is less than 1 million. But if voter turnout will be calculated, it will be calculated based on 1 million plus. Then have we talked about the overbloated nature of our registered voter? Because this is another conversation. How regularly is this being cleaned, right? We have people that have jackpot. In the normal Nigerian parlance.
Says every now and then they go into cleanup of the exercise of the voter register. Is it that they don't do it, or they just say they do it?
Well, we'll come to the practicality of that.
We'll talk more. Oluwafemi, I know you have so much to tell us because you've been working so hard since you came into. I suppose you've been here for the past 5 days or 1 week.
Yeah.
We'll talk more tomorrow. Kimpact is one of our partners, and we'll hear what they'll have to tell us by tomorrow when poll open. But at this point, I want to say thank you so much to you. Oluwafemi Adebayo is a head research and strategy of Kimpact Development Initiative, and the executive director, New Generation Girls and Women Development Initiative, Abimbola Aladejare Salako. Thank you so much, Sue, for your time. I would have asked you what you expect. I know that women may not really be much on the ballot, but in terms of voter numbers, women are always the majority. So in terms of deciding what happens, women will still take the plus for it. Yes.
And women are more than men on the voter roll now.
The voters register.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time with us on Democracy Today. Tava, it's back to you now. That's what we'll have to say about preparatory activities for the election, which kicks off in 12 hours from now here in Ekiti and the 16 local government areas that make up the state. AIT will be bringing you back-to-back development as it unfolds, as the election situation room studio opens by 8 a.m. On Saturday morning. So this is telling our audience to join us at that time for everything you need to know about this election. Trevor, back to you.
Especially the intervention by the executive director of the New Generation Girls and Women Development Initiative, a great female perspective that we've gotten to the election after all the masculine talk, the campaigns, and all of that we've seen and heard all along up till this moment. It will be decision day for the people of Ekiti State, and like we also told you, 6 other constituencies across the country. But then we shall turn attention now to something else, the state police, which is something that will interest each of the 36 states, and even the FCT in Nigeria. Governors of the 36 states or their deputies, except perhaps that of Ekiti State that has elections, re-election, have been in Abuja holding different meetings. And one of such meetings was the one they held with the 36 state attorneys general to draw up modalities for the establishment of state police.
Governors emphasized the need for the state police to be constitutionally sound and aligned with federalism and citizens' rights. The forum noted the collaborative effort and added that the consultation outcomes will strengthen the state's collective position.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns, and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. #Unite against terror.
Thanks for staying with us. We now have joining us virtually Chief Joseph Daudu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, former President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you so much for joining us, son. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
All right, good evening, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you must have followed the arguments, the debates, and what the National Assembly is doing. The House of Reps has already passed the State Police Bill, or Constitutional Authorization Bill, already. We're waiting for the Senate that will also hold a public hearing and proceed in that direction. But then there are a lot of issues in that bill, and what we're also seeing the governors say now that is of concern to us. Precisely, the governors are saying, look, from what you heard, the governor of Ogun State said that they expect that it will comply with the spirit and letter of federalism. And if you look at some provisions in that bill, which are supposed to be checks for the governors, you will see that we are still going to most probably run a unitary police system, as it were.
That has always been the problem with the way and manner the present quest for state police has been conceptualized. It wouldn't surprise Nigerians or people who are familiar with the Constitution that a state police crafted and modeled by the Inspector General of Police is just a federal police in another name. I would have thought that Nigeria being a federation, that the federating units would have been the ones to take the forefront in their quest to setting up the state police. Now, one thing has been missing. I've been an advocate of state police for the past 15 years. But gradually, I began to develop cold feet. Those will be discussed maybe at another opportunity. But for now, in a federation with 36 states, the 36 states must speak with a common voice. In the United States, there is a commission called the National Commission on Uniform State Laws, which sits together to craft uniform laws for the 52 states and their municipalities, that is Washington, D.C., Virgin Islands, and other principalities of the United States. Now, what should have happened here is that we put the cart before the horse. We should have had the states delegate persons to sit down, because we have different cultures, different terrains, different approaches, to sit down and fashion a uniform state police, taking into consideration our individual differences.
Yes.
Now, the fact remains that the Inspector General of the Police took the lead. And I searched for his report for a long time, and it was not even available.
Yes, you can hardly find it.
And so when something is shrouded in secrecy, and you expect the 36 states to have a buy-in, that is the beginning of the failure of the whole project. That is the beginning of the failure of the whole project. And we have other problems, but we are not coming to that now.
Yeah.
Our Constitution recognizes that being a federation made up of the center and the states, that in view of our increasing disharmony and problem and insecurity, that the states must speak with one voice. Left to me, it will take no less than 5 years to put the model and the machinery of state police in a correct manner in this country. Yes.
Okay, you were citing an example with the U.S. where they have a council or a commission that sits and drafts
uniform state laws.
Yes. In Nigeria, from what we are seeing, the Nigeria Police Council is supposed to replace the current National Police Council that approves the appointment of the IG and all of that. But then the kind of legal system we also operate in Nigeria, we have the penal code for the 19 northern states and FCT. We have the criminal code for the southern part of the country. Will that suffice in the kind of example you are making with the United States?
Yes, because exactly my point. You can have a uniform criminal code, but with different provisions for different places.
Yeah.
So that if you're in Calabar and you commit an offense, it will not be said that such offenses are not applicable in other places.
Yeah.
And even if they are not, the code will so specify. But there is usually a need. Like if you know the history of the penal code in the North, the North too is a representation of Nigeria. It has different cultures, different faiths, different religions. Yet, the Abu Ranat Commission of 1959, consisting of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Sudan, and some Nigerians, Mr. Chimu, were able to sit down and craft a code for the entire northern region, which is like a mini Nigeria.
Yes.
So there's usually a need for consultation, for unanimity on such sensitive topics. It is long overdue for us to have had a uniform criminal code for Nigeria. But lack of consultation, lack of interest, distraction to other issues like budgetary issues have taken our attention from very sensitive issues, which are the foundation of law and order in any country. And that's why we are where we are today.
A number of people who were opposed, or most probably are still opposed to the issue of state police, is how the governors, they fear that the governors may, use it against the opposition, use it against even innocent citizens, as it were. So there are some safeguards in the bill that they are putting forward. For instance, the amendment to Section 215 of the 1999 Constitution that talks about appointment of IGP, the Inspector General of Police, and now the Commissioner of Police for a state. They said the State Commissioner of Police will be appointed by a governor on advice of the Nigeria Police Council from among 7 officers of the state police, subject to confirmation by State House of Assembly. So it almost like takes away that exclusive right to make that outright appointment by a governor, takes that away from him. And he says the bill empowers governors to issue lawful directives to state commissioners of police on matters relating to public safety and maintenance of law and order. However, where a commissioner considers such directives unlawful and inconsistent with accepted policing standards, the matter may be referred to the Nigeria Police Council and their decision will be final. You and I know that most times these security issues are almost prompt, almost immediate, with some form of, urgency. So you wonder how a governor will give a directive to a CP, and then the CP will have to, if he doesn't want to obey that order from the governor, he will have to refer it to the Nigeria Police Council, which may not be meeting every day. The time lapse, and all of that. What kind of tension are you thinking I'm just imagining that kind of tension in my head, visualizing it, how it will be between the Commissioner of Police, the governor, and maybe the Nigerian Police Council as it were, and a security matter that could lead to breakdown of law and order.
You see, what you have read out confirms that the position of the federal government in the matter is structurally defective. It is not in line with how the Constitution has devised states and the federation and the center. When you want a state police, you should have a structure for the state police whose begins and ends in the state. When you have the federal government as a supervisory agency over a state police, it is no longer a state police, it's just a community police in name. It is still being federally supervised. If you really want a state police, you will start from the base upwards, that is from the state. You see, the fear of governors using the police against opponents or for purposes that are not authorized under the law has always been with us. And who says that the center has not been or have not been using the police in their own interest? So if it happens, politicians in Nigeria are the same, whether they operate in the center or they operate in the states. Indeed, the state police, if used in that unauthorized manner, will probably only act as a check and balance on the excesses of the federal police. But both reasons are not the reasons why we want the state police to exist. The state police is to exist for the maintenance of law and order and for the security of the common man within the boundaries of the state. So long as it is not serving that purpose, then it should not be created. But you see, you will run into a problem. You know, there's a lot of psychophancy, there's a lot of people who will rather do what the boss says rather than, because of the manner of employment, because of selection of officials, you find that people are even willing to be made to do their master's bidding rather than do what is right. So these are the core problems with the setting up of the state police. There must be an attitudinal change, which will take at least 3 to 5 years to put within the structure so that a commissioner in a state police will act independently and take instructions from a board that is independent, just like INEC. It's fairly independent, in my view.
Thank you.
The state police, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Senior Advocate. You've put up a lot of positions there, and we'll continue to engage you, especially on this, with a lot of what you have put in forward. But perhaps maybe the country might want to take a look at what is happening in Ondo State, where they have their Motekun. He's been there since, I think, 2020, almost 5 years now. And, you know, the governor that came in did not sack the commander of the Motekun. He continued, in fact, renewed his tenure, because it's supposed to be a 4-year tenure, renewed his tenure, and they've been going on with the operations almost effectively, except that they're not armed to do what is expected of a police service or a police force. So thank you very much, Senior Advocate. We'll get back to you on this matter, especially that is still under consideration in the National Assembly, and several other of those constitution alteration bills that are being considered by the National Assembly.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Former president of the Nigerian Bar Association there, Chief Joseph Daudu, putting his thoughts forward. And if from some of the submissions he has made, if people like him were not consulted on this issue of state police, then you ask yourself how the Nigerian democracy is working. If people like him were not consulted, then something definitely is wrong somewhere. But I'm sure Nigeria is work in progress, our democracy is also work in progress, and we'll also get it right eventually. And I have joining me the Deputy President of Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Sabassy Abu. Thank you very much for being able to join us. He's also a member of the National Institute, MNI. I will not forget that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we'll go back just a little to the elections, but you also heard the senior advocate there making some submissions on the issue of state police. It's something that almost every Nigerian is concerned about. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the state police, as it were, is jamming. It's something that has been dragged on for too long. And I think that we must face reality concerning the times that we live in this country. You spoke earlier about the establishment of Amotekun and the implication that we have given the current aspirations that the country is looking for towards the establishment of the state police, given the ongoing process in the alteration of the Constitution. Yes, I think that the establishment of Amotekun was more like a child of necessity to be able to deal with the insecurity within the southwest state, particularly in Ondo. And this cuts across to many other states, particularly within the Middle Belt. But unfortunately, governors within the Middle Belt at that time were not very, cooperative to be able to come up with something, that would be able to take care of the regional insecurity. But those in the southwest were able to do something through the leadership that was provided by the former governor of blessed memory. So I think largely that with the support that Mr. President is giving to the state police, we've seen recently the House of Rep taking a very clear position about it, and we hope that the Senate will do same. And then, with that, we also expect that the various state houses of assembly should also be able to consider it. All we need at that point, after the Senate passes it, is to have a two-thirds majority of the state also doing that. And I'm sure, given the expectation and the support that Mr. President has given to the bill, that you quickly assent to it and it comes into full force.
Is this all right? We'll now talk about the elections. It's not just in Ekiti, though Ekiti is the trophy with the governorship, but then there are also by-elections that we're having, about 6 of them or thereabout. Vote buying is a major issue. A number of the election observation groups have, in their pre-election reports, have raised issues with vote buying. But we heard the REC, that's the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Ekiti, say, look, it is not the job of INEC. The ICPC and the EFCs, they're the ones who handle the issue of vote buying. And it's a big concern for everybody as to what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah, INEC cannot fully exonerate itself from in terms of bringing its acts on anyone involved in vote buying. All it needs to do, yes, it needs the support of the EFCC, the police, and the ICPC. But, despite that, I think that it should take the front seat in terms of ensuring that the vote buying in our democracy and in electoral processes are nipped in the bud. It's almost becoming a norm, and I think that it does not give, the credibility and, in terms of helping the people to have the confidence in the process to come out and vote. So I think largely that it's something we really need to take seriously, and those who are being apprehended or caught should be prosecuted. We have not seen much of that in the past, and that is why it has persisted.
I don't know how many staff ICPC and EFCC have, but if you deploy almost all of them in Ekiti State, if you deploy almost all of them in all the other places by elections will hold, I doubt if they will be able to cover effectively, and therefore INEC to say they are not going to be part of stopping vote buying. It's an issue Nigerians will continue to look at in our electoral process, and we hope that we'll find a solution. If not in the Osun governorship election, perhaps before the 2027 general election. Thank you very much, Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Sebastian Abu, a member of the Nigerian National Institute. MNI. Unfortunately, your institute was attacked a few days ago.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
Very, very unfortunate.
Thank you.
And earlier, we also had joining us Chief Joseph Daudu, the senior advocate of Nigeria, former president, Nigerian Bar Association. That is democracy today, and we must say that Nigeria's democracy must work for Nigerians. Stay out of trouble and continue to be a good citizen. I am TV Tiaf.
Jufo runs her multiple e-commerce businesses in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Her business is known as drop shipping, a business model where products are sold online without the need for a so-called brick-and-mortar facility where those products are stored and processed. It involves the management of e-commerce inventory and affiliate marketing, where she promotes online products for other businesses. Ajufo started her online business in 2022 with less than $50.
Let's say I started with 50,000 naira. So today, I can tell you the percentage has increased to over 150% of income coming in from the business.
Ajufo's success story has its roots in access to the internet, a good phone, social media, and spending around $6 a month on a data subscription.
When it comes to showcasing my business online, internet access has done most of it, 80% of it. Without the internet, we won't be able to do any of those things.
And for many, like Ajufo, the internet means more income and opportunity. A January 2024 World Bank report discloses that Sub-Saharan Africa recorded a 115% increase in internet users between 2016 and 2021. This, the bank said, also reduced extreme poverty by 7% in Nigeria, fostering economic growth and innovation.
Opportunities abound in terms of the benefit for e-commerce, benefit for e-health, benefit for e-government, and as well as in terms of basic commercial transactions.
Despite the gains, the World Bank says women in sub-Saharan Africa have less access to the internet compared to men. The report also says women are 37% less likely to use mobile internet services than men, and that women in rural communities are affected most by the lack of digital access.
Once they cannot have, once means of, accessing the internet or data becomes much out of their reach, they become deprived. In fact, they become deprived educationally, they become deprived in terms of skills, and once all of these things, they become deprived in terms of having access to basic information about markets, about services, about even how to improve them. And once that is done, because then they become left behind.
Rural women in sub-Saharan Africa earn about 77% less than men, while urban women earn 46% less, according to data from the U.S. National Library of Medicine.
Quite a number of women, particularly in rural Nigeria, cannot afford the cost of basic smartphone. or future fall.
The Nigerian Communications Commission says it has launched projects to close the country's gender digital gap. Among them are the Digital Skills for Women and Girls Initiative, Nigerian Girls Can Code, and Women in ICT. Experts say there is a need to double these efforts. They suggest the government ramps up grassroots access to internet-enabled devices at affordable rates to get more women on board. For Gibson and Mika in Abuja, Nigeria, Mary Alice Salinas, VOA News.
The fall armyworm has caused devastating crop losses across Africa since it arrived in 2016 in Malawi at Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Biotechnology research scientist Kingdom Kwapata is leading studies into varieties of maize whose genes have been modified to resist the pest. Such engineered crops are considered genetically modified organisms or GMOs.
We needed a solution because our farmers are suffering. Our main purpose and aim for the research is to establish whether the gene that confers resistance against fall armyworms and other lepidopteran insects is effective.
The trials are expected to take about 5 years. They are conducted in a fenced and confined maize field 500 meters away from any traditional crop to avoid possible contamination with the traditional varieties.
Mother and sister of terrorists back 20 years each for terrorism-related offenses. Families of detained military officers allegedly involved in coup plot demand open trial. Over 1 million voters in Ekiti State set for governorship election. We join our chief correspondent for the latest. In business, Nigerian government strategizes on renewable energy initiatives. And in sports, at least 50,000 university athletes head to Calabar for the 2026 Nuga Games. This is the News Hour on AIT. I am Shola Jaismi, and with me on the news tonight is Oyedia Urum.
Many thanks for joining us on the News Hour. We begin the news from the courtroom in Abuja, where 2 women, a mother and her daughter, have been jailed for 40 years for terrorism offenses. The convict, Safiya Salihu, and her mother and sister, also they are terrorists who was neutralized by troops last week in an operation in Kogi State. Our Judiciary correspondent, Chibuzo Okize, has more.
The Nigerian government continues to push its fight against terrorism, another victory by the federal government and the DSS. These 2 women are related. One is the mother and the other a daughter. The Federal High Court found them guilty of supporting terrorism by withholding information and conveying arms for Kachala Ibrahim Batujo, who is the son and brother, and the bandit who was killed by Nigerian security forces on the 10th of June during an operation in a forest near Luke in Kaba, Bonu local government area of Kogi State. After the incident, both women are tracked and arrested and arraigned in court by the state security operatives. The evidence adduced was overwhelming, and the court agreed with the prosecution. Justice Hawa Yiwa convicted both women on counts 2, 4, and 5 of a 5-count charge filed by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. The charges centered on aiding and supporting Batujo's criminal operations, including passing sensitive information to him through telephone communications and withholding critical intelligence that could have led to his arrest. However, the court struck out counts 1 and 3 after the Director of Public Prosecution, Oyedepo Rotimi, a senior advocate of Nigeria, applied for their withdrawal. These counts involve allegations that the women received 490,300 naira, believed to be proceeds of terrorism, and accepted sponsorship for the Hajj pilgrimage using funds linked to terrorist activities. According to the prosecution, both defendants knowingly assisted Batujo by providing information that aided his operations, an offense punishable under Sections 26 of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. Safia Salihu was additionally convicted for concealing information about her son's terrorist activities, while Halima Abdullahi was found guilty of failing to report knowledge of firearms allegedly possessed by her brother during visits to his forest hideout. So 20 years imprisonment on each count for both. The court also directed that both women undergo rehabilitation after serving their jail terms. Chibuzo Okize, AIT News Abuja.
Now, another drama in another courtroom where a court in Kano has also convicted and sentenced a bandit armed courier, Raya Haruna, to 10 years imprisonment for transporting firearms and ammunition to bandits in around Kano State. The trial judge handed down the sentence after finding the defendant guilty on 3-count charge bordering on unlawful transportation of firearms and ammunition, as well as providing logistical support to criminal elements contrary to the Firearms Act and the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2022.
Convict Raya Haruna was arrested by security operatives in May 2024 and was subsequently arraigned before the court in a trial that lasted for 2 years. In his judgment, Justice Simon Amobeda held that although the convict was not directly involved in carrying out attacks, her roles as an arms courier substantially aided the operations of bandits and terrorist groups. The court noted that under the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, providing material support, logistics, transportation, or any form of assistance that facilitates banditry or terrorism constitutes a serious criminal offense. The judge described the convict's action as a catalyst for terrorist activities and expressed concerns that such acts, alongside individuals directly involved in attacks, continue to threaten national security, resulting in loss of lives and destruction of property.
I have to commend my Lord for the well job done. The minimum sentence is 20 years imprisonment or life imprisonment. We can say that my Lord tempered justice with mercy, and he's giving her a second chance to amend her ways in future.
Justice Simon Amobeda said the sentence was intended to give the convict an opportunity for rehabilitation and to serve as a deterrent to transporters, logistics operators, and couriers who engage in activities that support criminal networks. Enemona Ocheme, AIT News, Kano.
For years now, bandit attack turned many communities in Zamfara State into ghost settlement, forcing thousands of residents to flee for safety. Now, signs of recovery are beginning to emerge, with the Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Bello, saying collaboration between the state government and security agencies have enabled more than 10,000 internally displaced persons to return home.
More than 3 years after bandit attack forced residents of Fegin Kanawa and neighboring communities from their homes, signs of recovery are beginning to emerge. In May 2026, the Zamfara state government, working with the police command and other security agencies, facilitated the return of the displaced residents to their ancestral communities.
We are making significant progress and recording successes in terms of fighting banditry. As a result, we are making effort to make sure the IDPs in Zamfara State are all taken back to their respective places.
The exercise marked a significant step in an ongoing effort to restore normalcy in an area once badly affected by insecurity.
More than 95% of them are peasant farmers. And without them going to farm, we are likely to have what we call poverty-induced crime.
For many of the returnees, the homecoming represents a fresh start after years of uncertainty, displacement, and hardship.
The success is attributed to our commitment and determination in taking the fight to the enclave of the bandit.
As residents gradually rebuild their life, there is growing optimism that the improved security situation will support lasting peace, stability, and development across affected communities. Damina Yusuf, AIT News, Gusau.
The police in neighboring Kano State are moving early to spot new security threats, with the DIG who supervises the Northwest Geopolitical Zone, Suleiman Abdul, leading the strategy. He was in Kano for 2 days as part of supervisory oversight to tackle targets of asymmetric threats, urban gang networks, and protection of major commercial centers under the new internal security strategy of the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu.
At the Bumpai headquarters, DIG Suleiman Abdul held a strategic lecture with officers and men of the Kano State Police Command. He restated the IGP's 6 core administrative pillars and directed full compliance with the suspect's information capturing process in the national database.
Police is now moving to a friendly police as against how it used to be, and also to assess the security threats of the state, whether we analyze and then take it down and see what we can do to make Kano a safer place for everybody.
He charged area commanders and DPOs to make school safety a priority and to work closely with local vigilantes to prevent student abductions.
In our security analysis, we feel this can be a vulnerable area. So we had to come in and check with the principal and the management what security efforts we can proffer so that we avoid any oncoming circumstances.
And he's urging residents to report suspicious activity at the nearest station or through the command's emergency lines.
The families of several military officers detained over an alleged plot to overthrow President Bola Tinubu are demanding a fair and open trial. They want the military authority to open the proceeding to the public to allow international human rights observers inside and grant independent doctors access to the detainees. They held a press conference in Abuja and narrated the pains they say they have experienced since the officers were arrested.
It is over 6 months since the arrest of some military officers who were later accused of planning to overthrow the government. Civilian members of the alleged plot are currently facing an open trial before a federal high court, while 36 military officers are facing a general court-martial that is closed from the public. The wives and relatives are now demanding an open trial. The families say public trial will aid transparency.
We are not here to say our relatives are innocent of every charge. That is for the court to decide. But we are saying that the process has not been fair and open. We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for transparency. We call on the military authorities to allow international human rights observers to attend the trial, make the court proceedings open to the public and the media, allow independent medical doctors to examine our relatives. We cannot sleep. We cannot eat. We watch our children cry for their fathers.
Some of the detainees' children say they miss their fathers and have been struggling to meet basic needs since their detention.
School fees, monies, houses, plenty things we're missing for it. About food, about school fees, some little things, because they don't know what's happened to us behind, what these things happen. They don't know what's happening behind. So we want justice for our parents. Please, we beg them for that.
AIT News has reached out to the military authorities, but has yet to receive a response to requests for a reaction. The charges cover allegations of terrorism and waging war against the Nigerian state. Onoshorena Obozege, AIT News, Abuja.
Now to Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State, in which over 1 million voters are registered to participate. The electoral body, INEC, has assured that it will deliver a free, fair and credible exercise. And AIT's news crew is already in Ekiti State to provide comprehensive coverage across the 16 local government areas. Now, let's have this report of what the electorates say about the exercise put together by Adeshunyan Joseph.
Locals who spoke to AIT News say they are fully mobilized to cast their ballots. However, their readiness comes with a strict warning. They are urging the Independent National Electoral Commission, along security agencies, to deliver a completely flawless and transparent election.
We need to go into electronic voting, whereby we can capture election directly from the digital space.
I'm going to cast my vote tomorrow for the candidate of my choice.
While many view Saturday's vote as a vital step to deepening local democracy, others are focusing heavily on stability.
We didn't expect any violence, any atrocity to happen tomorrow. So by God's grace, it will happen and we have free and fair election.
To prevent any breakdown of law and order, security forces have been heavily deployed across all the 16 local government areas.
We have deployment at strategic locations. All these, the purpose is to serve as confidence building for members of the public and for citizens.
As the clock ticks down to Saturday morning, the ultimate expectation for the people of Ekiti State is a peaceful and credible election that entrenches democracy and paves the way for genuine economic development. Olushola Adishunyo, AIT News, Ado Ekiti.
Well, let's now join AIT's chief correspondent, Utibe Omar, for the latest from Ado Ekiti. Utibe, take us through what exactly is going on a few hours to the polls. Give us an update.
Right now we are live in Ado Ekiti and all is set for the election holding in 12 hours from now. As you may have seen in the report which we sent in, the electoral management body INEC had started deployment of materials since Thursday, and those materials have gotten to their destination by now, and we're expecting that by Saturday the process will kick off immediately. In terms of the security and the police as well, that is also an issue that has been much of concern to people here. The police commissioner, the police commissioner in charge of security, election security here, Shogule, has said, well, he's going to deploy all his men across the potential flashpoint for this election, and they will ensure that everything is calm. The deployments have been huge. The NSCDC has done a lot of deployment. It says about 10,000 people have been deployed for this election, and they are upbeat and they're hopeful that it will provide an enabling environment for the election to take place peacefully and calmly. But one thing that has been a source of concern for many people, not just the stakeholders, the political parties and the politicians as well, but particularly for election observers and the CSOs, has been the issue that has become much of a culture in our electoral process in Niger, which is vote buying. And this is what the police also spoke to, the fact that they are going to ensure that they've trained their men, actually, that's what Shogulu said, they've trained their men, they've prepared them to be able to identify when that practice is ongoing and how to intervene as soon as it happens and arrest the people in charge. But one of the questions a lot of people have asked here is, how does the police just you don't catch a thief by showing up and making yourself look like somebody who's out there to catch a thief. We've seen situations in the past where the EFCC has been around during elections as well, and they put on their vest, boldly written EFCC. Anybody who is ready for vote buying would see that and would hide, because the way they usually say it is, as a hunter create more ingenious ways to catch a thief. A thief also is creating more tricks to avoid being caught. So that's a tricky area in which the security agencies have to come up with new ingenious ways to be able to counter the practice of vote buying, which has been part of the electoral culture in this country for some time now. But as far as voters are concerned, as you might have seen in the report we sent in earlier, they seem to be quite upbeat and ready for the exercise coming up on Saturday. Shola.
Now, staying with other elections, so we have a by-election for Nasarawa up here in the northern part of Nigeria, Nasarawa not to be precise. And the police in that state say that vehicular and motorcycle movement will be restricted from midnight to 6 p.m. in Akwanga, Nasarawa, Egon, Wamba local government areas during the senatorial by-election. According to the police command, the restriction does not apply to accredited election officials, security personnel, emergency responders, and other authorized service providers. The police command also notes that it has placed robust security measures in place, including the deployment of personnel and operational assets to ensure a peaceful and credible Nasarawa North Central by-election in Akwanga, Nasarawa Egon, and Wamba local governments. It directed all vigilante groups, hunters, COSI security outfits, and other unauthorized organizations to stay away from polling units, coalition centers, and election venues. Anyone found violating the directive will face legal consequences.
Now, proceedings at the Federal High Court in Abuja on Friday witnessed a moment of tension after two senior lawyers separately announced appearances for the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in a suit instituted by the party's Board of Trustees, BOT, led by the former Senate President Adolphus Mwabara, against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The case assigned to Justice Salim Ibrahim seeks a court order directing INEC to officially recognize the Interim National Working Committee of the PDP, headed by Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, and reflect the leadership on its official website. The suit was jointly filed by the PDP and members of its Board of Trustees, who are asking the court to compel INEC to update its records in line with the interim NWC, allegedly submitted by the party's National Executive Committee. According to the plaintiff, the list containing members of the Turaki-led interim NWC was formally forwarded to INEC through letters dated May 4. Among those listed as plaintiff are the former Senate President Adolphus Mwabara, BOT Secretary, and the former Niger State Governor Muazu Babangida Aliyu, the former Information Minister Professor Jerry Gana, and PDP stalwart Olabode George.
And to developmental projects in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu says ensuring the Federal Capital Territory has all the amenities befitting of a capital city will be followed through. He added that the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has driven Abuja's transformation. He was represented at an event where roads were commissioned by Vice President Kashim Shettima.
It has been a week-long series of project commissioning activities marking President Bola Tinubu's third anniversary. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who represented the president at the commissioning ceremony and formally inaugurated the latest project this Friday, commended the FCT minister for his impact in transforming the nation's capital.
When I gave him the assignment to make Abuja a true capital, I knew his track record. And Barrister Wike, you have not disappointed Nigerians. From abandoned roads to new boulevards, from water projects to judicial quarters, you work day and night. You do not give excuses, you give results. The people of the FCT call you Mr. Project for a reason. Well done.
FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, in his remarks, said communities are now experiencing what true governance means.
People say there's no money, nothing's happening in Nigeria. But when you wake up every morning, as road passes, there's construction going on. That means something's going on in Nigeria, something going on in FCT. And this is made possible by your administration. One way or the other, jobs are going on, your work contract, people are being employed, construction of buildings are going, people are being employed. But for this infrastructure, those employment may not have been possible.
Friday's commissioning brings the total number of projects inaugurated to 8, with at least 22 more projects still expected to be commissioned. Chukwebuka Obodo, AIT News, Abuja.
Nigeria's aviation industry received a major boost as United Nigeria Airlines unveiled 2 newly acquired Boeing 737-800 next generation aircraft in Lagos, signaling a significant expansion of its fleet and route network. The airline's chairman, Professor Obiora Okonkwo, described the acquisition as a milestone not only for United Nigeria Airlines, but for the entire Nigerian aviation sector. Our correspondent, Amarachi Amushi, reports.
It was a celebration of excellence, legacy, and national pride as United Nigeria Airlines honored 2 iconic Nigerians by naming its newly acquired aircraft after them in recognition of their remarkable contributions to society and nation building. Speaking at the event, chairman of the airline, Professor Obiora Okonkwo, said the newly acquired aircraft have been configured to prioritize passenger comfort as the airline is set to expand its domestic network, while preparations for regional and international operations are expected soon.
We are not just celebrating the unveiling of this wonderful 2 aircraft, which is just, the first set of more that are on their way, but also celebrating the future of Nigeria aviation, thanks to the great work and collaboration the operators are having with the minister, the agencies, and then, of course, the favorable policies that are coming from the government side.
Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, attributed the acquisition to the federal government's aviation reforms.
As a country, as a government, we gave our backing to this transaction to give the leasers the confidence to bring these aircrafts into the country. And many more will follow. You also heard that 4 more are on stream to come. You also heard that in August, they are expecting the first pure dry lease of aircrafts into this country. Again, we also announced that the president has approved the establishment of an aircraft leasing company to aid them to lease aircraft even at cheaper rates and within our local jurisdiction.
The chief launcher, Governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, alongside Obi of Onitsha and representative of the late literary icon, Professor Chinua Achebe, expressed appreciation to the airline.
I just want to thank Professor Obiora Okonkwo for his magnanimity, for also remembering that our people should be honored.
On behalf of the community, I thank the management of United Nigeria Airlines for finding it worthy to name one of the aircraft after my 2 friends and brothers.
My being overwhelmed for 2 reasons. One, that my name will be inscribed on one of those aircrafts. And 2, that my name will be inscribed alongside the name of Chinua Achebe on the 2nd aircraft.
The event also featured the presentation of awards to individuals and organizations that have played key roles in the growth of United Nigeria Airlines. Recipients included Boeing, Zenith Bank, Minister of Aviation Festus Keyamo, and Governor Alex Oti. Amarachi Amushi, AIT News, Lagos.
You're still watching the news on AIT. Up next is Business Report.
TerraQ, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns, and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces. Salute their gallantry. Stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Oh, remember how mom used to wake up before everybody to make breakfast, iron our uniform? Let's surprise that woman with something special.
Treasure Mom this 2026 with a trip to Zanzibar in the 3 Crowns Mom of the Year competition. Write a note using each letter in your mom's name and upload with a photo of 5,000 Naira worth of 3 Crowns products on our website or at any of our collection centers. T's and C's apply. 3 Crowns Milk. Healthy moms, happy families.
No worries, I go make am. Mogo Bible.
Victor, even you, they use money point?
Of course now, they use money points.
Confirm.
Money Point, made for your progress.
Godrich Air Pocket? Wow!
With Power Gel technology, keeps the bathroom fresh for up to 30 days. Godrich Air Pocket. Bye-bye bad smell, hello sweet fragrance.
Welcome to Business Report. I am Amaka Okoro. We'll begin with a report on renewable energy offtake agreement. The federal government is intensifying implementation of the Nigeria Force policy aimed at prioritizing local content in public procurement and boosting indigenous production. In Abuja, the Bureau of Public Procurement and NASENI formalized a partnership aimed at boosting local participation in the renewable energy sector as part of efforts to strengthen the implementation of the Nigeria Force policy and promote indigenous production.
Under the framework, government will procure renewable energy products from local manufacturers, creating a guaranteed market for solar and clean energy technologies produced in Nigeria. The initiative is expected to reduce imports, strengthen local capacity, and expand job opportunities in the renewable energy value chain. Speaking at the signing, the executive vice chairman of NASENI said the agreement aligns with national goals on industrial growth and energy transition.
This is what this government is all about, collaboration and ensure that you complete the full cycle. And what we want to do is to put a smile on the faces of Nigerians. We do that by reducing import bill, by creating jobs, and in some instances export these products and earn hard currency. And this is no longer about just production, but about security of our economy and the security of our people.
Rural Electrification say the partnership will support efforts to expand electricity access to underserved communities while encouraging local production.
So we want to see new UNTL in Kaduna rising. We want to see custom buying the cuttings from UNTL. We want to see the military, paramilitary going back to Kaduna axis to buy those cuttings. So those industries come up again. We want to see small phones being produced like Nasenia has been trying to do.
For the first time in the history of Nigeria, more than 1,000 mini-grids are being project developed in Nigeria. So the prospect is to continue to leverage on this and at the same time reduce the importation of the equipment that we use in deploying the infrastructure to make sure that they are produced in Nigeria. And that is what BPP and Naseni are making sure that it's happening today.
The agreement is expected to deepen local production in the renewable energy sector while supporting broader efforts to expand electricity access across Nigeria using local manufacturers. Roluke Ogundele, AIT News, Abuja.
The Petroleum Product Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, has called on refiners, depot owners and fuel importers to reduce the pump price of petrol following the recent decline in global crude oil price. The appeal was made on Friday by the national president of Petron, Billy Gilihari, who said Nigerians should benefit from lower international crude oil prices through reduced fuel costs.
Speaking on the recent development in the global oil market, Petron President Billy Gillis-Harry said the fall in Brent crude prices to about $77 to $78 per barrel present an opportunities for operators in the downstream petroleum sector to adjust ex-depot and retail prices in line with market realities. He noted that the decline in crude price driven by an improved geopolitical condition and increased oil exports from the Middle East should be translated into relief for consumers facing rising transportation and living costs. The association also expressed concern that the landed cost of imported petroleum products now appears lower than prices offered by same domestic refinery, stressing need for a more competitive downstream market. Petra urged the Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authorities to continue issuing import licenses to qualified marketers to encourage competition and discourage monopolistic practices. The group further appealed to NNPC Limited to engage Chinese firms interested in operating the Port Harcourt and Warri refinery, saying private sector management could boost local refining capacity, improve supply stability, and further reduce fuel prices. Petra maintained that sustained moderation in crude oil prices, stable exchange rates, and efficient refining operation should ultimately translate into cheaper petrol and economic relief for Nigerians. Landry Balola, AIT News, Abuja.
And now to stock report. Nigerian equities market ended Friday, the last day's trading session, on a negative note, with the all-share index depreciating by 0.76% to close at 237,119.11 basis points. The volume of shares traded is 397 million, corresponding to a market value of 19.4 billion naira. The market capitalization now stands at 152 trillion naira. Over 100 equities participated in today's trading activities, with 20 gainers and 31 losers at the end of the session. Tapping the decliners chart is Nigeria Aviation Handling Company, which declined by 10% to close at 148 naira 50 kobo, followed by Royal Express, which declined by 10% to close at 1 naira 53 kobo. We have Guarantee Trust Holding Company, Force Holdco, and NIMET among the decliners chart. On the gainers chart, we have Deep Capital Management and Trust, which gained 9.89% to close at 4 naira 89 kobo, followed by RT Briscoe, which gained 9.62% to close at 13 naira 10 kobo. InterEnergy's Insurance is also in the list of gainers and gained 7.43% to close at 5 naira 60 kobo, followed by Jais Bank and Living Trust. The three active trader stocks for the day were Access Holdco, Zenith Bank, and Sterling Bank. In the oil market, prices gained. For West Texas, intermediate by 1.03% to close at $76.62. Brent crude also gained. And that's business reports. I am Amaka Okoro. The news continues.
Our bodies get serums, washes, lotions, cleansers, scrubs. But underarms only get deodorant? That's why our new breakthrough formula contains pure hyaluron and vitamin C to deeply care for your underarms for a softer and even skin tone in 2 weeks. With 72 hours sweat and odor protection, try the new Nivea Derma Control Natural Tone because your underarms deserve more. Nivea is for skin.
Nigeria has survived everything not because we are lucky, but because in the hardest moment when the news breaks and the grief is raw, someone somewhere makes a choice.
To confirm before spreading panic, to empathize rather than assign blame, to hold when everything inside said, pooh.
For terrorism is not only the attack that sparks our outrage. Terrorism is also the choices that follow, the ones that feed division and erode the bonds of nationhood and patriotism that hold us together as Nigerians.
Let us choose to defeat terror, one division at a time. Take a pulse, choose Nigeria.
Let's all unite against terror.
The FIFA World Cup 2026 is here. Watch all 104 matches live on Star Times, from the opening match to the final showdown.
And this time, it's not just watching, it's watch and win.
Subscribe or buy a Star Times decoder and stand a chance to win the 10 million naira grand prize, plus many exciting prizes nationwide with subscription packages starting from just 4,000 naira. Recharge now via Star Times app or visit any Star Times office or dealer outlet near you.
Star Times, enjoy digital life.
Give more strength to your hair with Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener. It's infused with nourishing oils and conditioning proteins so you can say goodbye to hair breakage. Wow! Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener.
You're welcome back to the AIT News Hour. Let's bring you some more reports. The Nasarawa state government plans to provide 1 million households with clean cooking stoves by 2030. The move aims to curb heavy reliance on firewood and charcoal. Officials announced this at a climate stakeholder workshop held in Lafia, the state capital. Let's get details from Mwese Shakia.
The DG, the Human Capital Development Agency, and all.
A recent state survey reveals a pressing environmental and health crisis. Over 82% of Nasarawa households still cook with wood and charcoal. Furthermore, 40% suffer health issues from toxic kitchen smoke. Governor Abdullahi Sule shared this fact in a message to stakeholders, noting that over 92% of residents want cleaner cooking alternatives.
This initiative, is aimed at improving the quality of lives of the people of Nasarawa State. When people begin to engage in clean cooking, they are advocating for healthier environment.
The event focused on validating the state's low-emission development strategy. Energy expert Adnan Aminu says the framework targets net zero emission by 2060.
The people that answered our survey, 40% of them said that they have reported health issues because of smoke inhalation. That's massive. It means out of every 10 women, 4 are reporting that they are getting sick because of cooking.
Organizers say all stakeholder feedback will go into the final document. The policy promises better health and a cleaner environment for Nasarawa. Mwesi Shakia, AIT News, Lafia.
As the number of elderly persons in Nigeria continues to grow, concerns are mounting over the increasing cases of neglect, abandonment, and abuse suffered by older citizens. Speaking during an awareness program on elder abuse prevention in Abuja, health expert Dr. Ogugwa Osiogbu is calling on state government to put in place affordable national health insurance policy to protect the rights and well-being of senior citizens through improved health care services and greater public awareness.
For many elderly Nigerians, growing old comes with more than just the challenges of age. It often means facing isolation, poor access to health care, financial hardship, and in some cases, abuse and neglect from family members and society. a consultant physician and geriatrician at the National Hospital Abuja, Dr. Ogugwa Osiobu, expressed concern over what she described as the increasing neglect of elderly persons across the country.
Older people have multiple diseases. They're taking a lot of drugs per month, sometimes up to 300,000 per month is spent on drugs alone. They also have to run tests and all of that. So the advocacy is that we should have health insurance that is affordable to these older persons, and in addition, a social protection insurance.
The geriatrician stressed that age-related illnesses such as hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, dementia, and other chronic conditions require continuous monitoring and management, making accessible healthcare services crucial for the elderly population.
Making sure at the primary healthcare level we have integration of the care of older persons, because that will be the first point of call. Can we manage simple things? Screen for vision loss, screen for hearing loss, screen for malnutrition. These are the things that we need to screen, identify early, and manage.
As Nigeria's elderly population continues to increase, stakeholders believe that protecting older citizens from abuse and neglect must become a national priority.
The agreement publicly announced between the Nigerian government, that's the federal government, and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, early this year, was to score some political points by the government of the day. This is according to the General Secretary of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational Associations, NASU, Peter Adeyemi, during an interaction with journalists.
We are not fighting ASU or anything, because the employer has a responsibility to provide a level playing ground. In fact, I do not know why government is even involved in this divide and rule thing. So, one, they started renegotiation with ASU and they concluded. But my attitude to that is that's simply because this government, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, wanted to score a political point over and above other governments. This government wanted to be credited. Part of its achievement is that while in office, they did not allow for ASU strike. Because you know that several other governments, Buhari or whichever, Jonathan, everything, ASU went on strike for several months.
At the Federal Ministry of Education say the minister has been having a series of meetings and engagements with the harmonized negotiation teams to ensure the resolution of all issues regarding the tertiary education sector.
The federal government have urged Kaduna State to sustain business-friendly reforms and strengthen its investment visibility as part of effort to improve Nigeria's competitiveness and attract more local and foreign investment. The call came during the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council nationwide town hall and state engagement tour in Kaduna State.
As part of ongoing efforts to improve Nigeria's business climate, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, has challenged Kaduna State to build on its reform achievements and enhance its appeal to investors. Speaking at the nationwide town hall and state engagement tour in Kaduna, Director General of PEBEC, Zara Audu, said Kaduna's ranking as the second best state in Nigeria for ease of doing business reflects its commitment to economic reforms and private sector growth. She, however, stressed that maintaining and improving that position requires continuous reforms, stronger institutions, and deliberate efforts to showcase the state's investment opportunities.
We're also pushing for Kaduna State to be a bit more intentional in terms of its branding. We've had strong conversations around some of the natural resources as well as some of the attributes that Kaduna is typically known for. These sessions across all the states, not just Kaduna, has been focused on helping our state strategize, have priority areas and strong alignment areas so that we can naturally attract the right investors into each state.
Representing Governor Obasani, the Commissioner for Business, Innovation and Technology, Patient Fakir, reaffirmed Kaduna State's commitment to creating an enabling environment for businesses through sustained engagement and the private sector.
This philosophy has guided many of the reforms we have undertaken over the years and has contributed to Kaduna State's emergence as one of Nigeria's leading reforming states.
The engagement brought together government officials, investors, and business operators to identify practical solutions aimed at strengthening Kaduna's competitiveness, attracting investment, and driving sustainable economic growth. Abimaja Moses, AIT News, Kaduna.
And news outside Nigeria, lawmakers in Zimbabwe have approved a 7-year term for the president. The move has drawn criticism by opposition, who say it is a move to extend the term of President Mnangagwa.
And a looming contest for the leadership of the ruling Labour Party in the United Kingdom is in the offing. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has said he's up for it after the man who seeks his job, Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, won a parliamentary by-election seat.
Up next is sports.
Welcome, I am Osaibofo Sifo. Morocco captain Achraf Hakimi could face uncertainty over his participation in the later stage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup after French prosecutor confirmed that he will stand trial over rape allegation dating back to 2023. The Paris Saint-Germain defender has consistently denied the accusation, saying that he is looking forward to the trial in order to clear his name. Although Morocco's group stage matches are being played in the United States of America, Hakimi could encounter difficulties entering Canada or Mexico should the Atlas Lions progress to the knockout round. The situation mirrors that of Ghana's midfielder Thomas Partey, who was denied entry into Canada and missed his country's opening match of the tournament. Meanwhile, Ivory Coast have also suffered a setback after striker El Wahi was denied entry into Canada ahead of their crucial Group E clash against Germany. The countdown to the 2027 CAF African Cup of Nations has officially begun, with exactly 1 year remaining before Africa's biggest football tournament kicks off in East Africa. Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda will jointly host the competition for the first time in their history, marking the return of the AFCON to the region for the first time since 1976. The month-long tournament themed Pamoja, meaning together in Swahili, will run from June 19th to July 17th, 2027, and is expected to attract more than 1.5 million fans while reaching a global television audience of over 3.2 billion viewers. Qualification for the 24-team tournament begins in September 2026 with the continental heavyweights, including Nigeria, Morocco, Egypt, Senegal, Algeria, Ghana, Cameroon, and Cote d'Ivoire, set to begin their campaign. 1,000 athletes and officials from universities across Nigeria are expected in Calabar for the 28th edition of the Nigeria University Games Association NUGA Games, scheduled for November 14th to 24th, 2026. The University of Calabar says preparations are underway for what is expected to be one of the largest gatherings of student athletes in the country.
The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Calabar, Professor Ofiong, says about 50 universities will participate in the 10th Sporting Festival. 28 sporting disciplines are expected to feature, providing a platform for student athletes to compete and showcase their talent.
This event is more than just a series of competitions. It is an extraordinary opportunity to showcase our commitment to academic and athletic excellence and celebrate the vibrant spirit of our youths.
Beyond the competition, sports stakeholders view the Games as an important avenue for talent discovery, with many athletes using the platform to advance into national and international sporting careers.
Our goal is to create a state-of-the-art sport complex that will continue to benefit our students, the community, long after the final medal of the game is awarded.
The influx of athletes, officials, coaches, and supporters is also expected to generate economic activities in the host city as preparations intensify ahead of the Games. The 2026 Nuga Games will run from November 14th to 24 in the city of Calabar. In Emesat Ifiok, AIT News, Calabar.
Finally, the 2026-2027 Premier League season will kick off on August 21st. With newly promoted Coventry City traveling to the champions Arsenal for their first top-flight match in 25 years. Hull City hosts Manchester United. Ipswich Town welcomes Sunderland, while Manchester City begin a new era without Pep Guardiola at home to Bournemouth. Chelsea, now managed by Xabi Alonso, opens their campaign with a London derby against Fulham as the season gets underway, just 34 days after the World Cup final. The new campaign will also introduce several rule changes, including severe punishment for hair-pulling offences, stricter enforcement against holding in the penalty area, and fresh measures to combat goalkeeper time wasting. The season will conclude on May 30th, 2027, with a full Boxing Day fixture program, returning with 9 Premier League clubs set to compete in European competition. That is sport. Many thanks for watching. I am Osaibovo Osifo.
Okay, just before we go, let's tell you that the former chair of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has resumed duty at Nigeria's mission in Doha, that's in Qatar. This according to a statement by his former press secretary when he was INEC chair. He was received by a top Qatari official and 13 African ambassadors. The Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, Philip Mshelia, and Michael Ikweba, who is the president of the Nigerians in Diaspora organization, were also present at the event. Nigeria and Qatar formally established diplomatic ties in 2010, with both countries opening embassies in Abuja and Doha that same year. Okay, before we go, let's remind you that the challenge of criminality and insecurity affects everyone.
That means that everyone has a role to play in helping the authorities to fight the crisis of terrorism. So when you see something, you must share with law enforcement agencies. Thank you so much for watching. I am Uyedia Orom.
And I am Shola Jaisimi. Thank you for watching.